caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, right guys, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that, stop that, stop that.
Juju, put it on the poll, please. Does the DNC, DNP, what
happened there?
Oh, my God.
Juju, verbatim, every single word he said.
Oh, my God.
Should we start over?
I think, can we start over? Let's start again. Let's just start again. Yeah.
Play the intro again.
Yeah, let's do it.
There it is.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize, white girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees, I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, right guys, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that, stop that, stop that.
Juju, don't put pressure on me. Put it on the poll. Does the D and DMV off?
Jesus Christ.
What's going on here?
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, white girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees, I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, right guys, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that, stop that, stop that.
It's not worth it anymore. It's not worth the pressure of it anymore. I'll go elsewhere conversationally.
No, what does the D stand for?
Yeah.
DJ. Does the D in DNC stand for DJ because all of a sudden the Democratic Party is an actual party? It's the party of entertainment. I'd like this on the poll as well. Have Jay-Z and Alicia Keys knocked out Frank Sinatra on New York's anthem? Yes or no?
That was controversial. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of New Yorkers hate Empire State of Mind.
It's a corny song.
A lot of people have it in their do not play this at my wedding list when they get married in New York.
Unless Hawk Tuah is there, and then she says what she thinks it's wet dream.
Concrete Jungle, Wet Dream Tomato.
There you go, Concrete Jungle, Wet Dream Tomato.
Wheelhouse.
Locked in on Hawk Tuah, girl, Billy is? Like, what's up with that?
Amin has trouble when he's been off for a week, flies red eye, and then starts in the morning. His energy is always bad. Like, it takes him 47 minutes to get the cobwebs off.
I'm sorry. Let's do radio, morning radio. Hey, how's it going, guys? What a great day in Empire State of Mind. Hey, how about that song, Jessica? Hey, Billy, what's the name of the thing that Hawk Tuah did? Was it Wet Tomato, Hot Dream, or what? How's it go?
I don't know. I give the right answer. That's a
okay. No. Energy's got to be higher.
Thank you.
Energy's got to be higher.
Counter penalty, 2 minutes rambling.
Yeah. See ya.
I'll be back with more energy. You guys wanted energy. You'll get energy.
Exactly 47 minutes.
Don't threaten us. You're going to do your job. You're going to be up and awake in the morning.
Energy is what we want.
You always sound sleepy when you come in, as if we're boring you, as if we're imposing on Count the Dings. Like, come in with some energy and do the show correctly, not sleepy. They're paying you a lot of money. Like, we're boring you? Taking up your time?
So, DJ?
The thing that I wanted to talk about from last night wasn't that transfer of power. I can't believe what happened with Brian Flores. I am stunned that the shift is such in that sport that, hey, guys, quarterbacks have taken over. Coaches and that style, we'll see you on the way down. You're going to have to get out in a press conference to try and save your job, and you're going to need 2 actual Vikings next to you on the stage because you need the support. That's crazy. What I saw yesterday, Stugotz, stunned me. That Tua says, you're a terrible person, and Flores has to get out there on his knees and be like, my bad, man. What'd you learn, coach? Don't be mean to the quarterback because I have the same record as McDaniel, and I'm a lot better in December than McDaniel is, and no one looks at it that way because they look at Tua and they say, me failing. That's what they see, and I got to save my job, and I got to bring 2 players out with me to stand support. Couldn't believe what I saw yesterday.
I was impressed, for what it's worth, with Flores for having that response, for taking what Tua said and saying, hey, I need to do better. I need to be a better person because, and a lot of people will say, what's he going to say in that spot? But that's what you say in that spot.
No, but you say, what's he going to say in that spot? Not what he did. Not many coaches do it that way, and I could be cynical about it and call it a desperation to stay in the league when he's got a few friends. He's been throwing lifelines like Tomlin had to throw. Man, they all saw what happened to Kaepernick. Like a lawsuit against the league for racism. You need friends. If you ever want to get to your dreams again and people not to remember you is, yeah, you had McDaniel's results. You did. You were better in December. But people look at you and say, you screwed up Tua. You couldn't put the pieces around him, and now he's in job-saving mode. That is crazy.
But comparing his record to McDaniel also is not including. You're giving his record his last 2 seasons when he had Tua. You're not giving his record without Tua, which is worse without him than it was with him.
What Flores overtook, people forget this now, was a tanking team that Dominique Foxworth said was unethical to field because they were going to get trampled by the pros. It was a low payroll, and they were totally in rebuilding. That's not what McDaniel has. Like, McDaniel could have saved Tua with all of the pieces they put around him. That's not what Flores had here. Like, that was a tanking football team that he somehow got to a record that was a lot better than any of us thought it would be, with a quarterback who had the worst offensive line in the league and the worst separation from his receivers in the league.
But McDaniel's getting the best Tua that we've seen. Flores did not take the opportunity to go out and get the best Tua. Perhaps it would have been different for him.
Stugotz, this is the part that's hugely fascinating to me. That business, the scoreboard tells all, it's results, not perception. But Flores is buried right now under perception. And he had to bring 2 players out. Hey, tell the guys I'm okay. Please tell everybody in the league that I'm not a bad dude because Tua said a sentence. I'm a terrible person, and I run the risk of him wrecking the rest of my career if I don't stand up here and handle this press conference correctly. That's crazy to me. That's crazy. A few years ago, this guy was a Belichick disciple who had all the power. All the Belichick disciples behave like Belichick, and all of them have failed. Like every last one of them. And so what do you get in the locker room now with the Dolphins? You get a coach who's an ally, and you get a Tua who's paid and confident, and now the expectations come, and we will see what the results are. But Flores left the team where the results, Stugotz, were McDaniel-ish. It just didn't look as sexy because nobody wanted to win with defense instead of offense.
I think if Flores wanted to make a statement about Tua, he shouldn't have brought defensive players or other guys. He should have brought the quarterbacks with him to be like, see, Sam Darnold's here, J.J. McCarthy on a crutches, be like, look, see, the quarterbacks say I'm good.
But he's a defensive coordinator.
I know,
Tua,
but
he dealt with Tua because he was a head coach.
I hear you.
Tony, you're making it worse if you walk out with Sam Darnold. You can't
what?
do that. You can't do it.
All he really did was come out and say, hey, I've changed. I decided I've changed. And he put it to rest so that this doesn't become a thing going on. Like, he addressed it the next day to try to kind of end it, which it will. Once games start, I don't think that people are going to be as fascinated with this as they are. Like, it'll always be kind of a thing that you think of when you think of Brian Flores, but it's going to go away once the games start.
Yeah, but imagine J.J. McCarthy going up there on crutches with a season-ending knee injury and being like, that's my defensive coordinator. That buys you a lot.
He doesn't even know him.
It doesn't matter.
Let's listen to Flores because we're talking about it. Some people haven't heard it. Let's hear what Flores' response was to Tua.
I'm always going to have a high standard. And I think, look, I've done a lot of reflecting and, on the situation, reflecting on the situation, communication. I think there's things that I could do better, for sure. And I've grown in that way. And I try to apply the things that I could do better and the things that I've learned, over the last, 2-3 years. But I would say over the long haul, I've had a lot of great relationships over my 21-year career here in the league. Players, coaches, personnel, equipment, people in the kitchen. I mean, really across the board, I've had a lot of great relationships. I'm going to continue to do that. But I'm also always looking to get better and involved. No different than as a coach, whether it's schematics or personnel or evaluations. I'm always looking to get better. I'm always looking for dialogue in meetings with coaches, with players. I don't care where a good idea comes from. You guys have heard me say that. And, I'm open to getting better. And that's always always my mindset.
Stugotz, he did handle it well. Mm-hmm. That is what humbling sounds like. I'm not used to the football coaches getting out there and being that kind of humbled, especially the tough guy ones.
Right.
That wasn't quite, I'm sorry, and I would have liked some specifics on what it is he's learned, to not tell his quarterback that he sucks, or what he's learned specifically about positive reinforcement. But to me, the most interesting part of all of that is, in that sport where the evolution is always having the 21-year-old hunt down the 31-year-old, the fact that the power shift is such that these guys don't have Daddy Belichick out there anymore to protect them as the savior of the league, and to see that fall be that precipitous, where he gets here, does a good job. Flores did a good job here under impossible circumstances, but that the stain would linger, that Belichick can't get it out, and now that Tua takes him out with a sentence in a way that has him on his knees in Minnesota, that's a shift in the power dynamics that Tua went and got the money and the security to overtake where the power in that league is. Brady showed it to us with Belichick. Aaron Rodgers is showing it to us now with the Jets. The quarterbacks clearly run that league, Stugotz.
They do. I don't know when that shift occurred. It was probably in the last couple of years, but I do love that Tony wants him to walk out there, Flores, with Nick Mullins. Like, I think that is Nick Mullins and Sam Darnold to show support for Brian Flores.
They had some random defensive tackle there. At least Nick Mullins.
I think with Brian Flores also, like, this was his first time being a head coach in the NFL, right? And there is some nuance to some of the things that Nick Saban does and that Bill Belichick do, where, like, when you look at it from the outside, you're like, they're hard asses, right? But when you talk to some of Nick Saban's players who have come up playing through Alabama,
they love him.
They love him, right? But if this is your first time doing it and you don't know how to handle each person individually, and you don't have the head coaching experience, it's possible just to think, I need to be the hard ass, I need to be the person that's in charge, and you mismanage people. But, like, as you grow in whatever the industry is, you learn different way to handle people and different way to handle situations. So, like, he could have changed in realizing, well, hey, I handled that the wrong way being a hard ass. I could be a hard ass, but some people I shouldn't be as much of a hard ass, or I can be a hard ass here, but then we have conversations where it may just be he mismanaged Tua, and he's not a terrible person. He just handled the situation poorly, and he's learned from that.
To your point, Billy, one of my friends, Marshall Newhouse, he's a great follow on Twitter, played for Bill Belichick, and he tweeted this out yesterday. He said, I can assure anyone trying to justify Flores' alleged coaching style behavior with he's a Belichick disciple, doesn't know how Bill led people all these years. Bill was far from warm and fuzzy all the time. He had an unwavering sense of accountability. The record speaks for itself. However, he loved football and he loved players. He absolutely revered what it takes to sacrifice and play this game. He may not have been outwardly cordial all the time about it, but there's no shortage of respect that Bill had for the game and for the players involved. So I think, to your point, Billy, there is probably a misunderstanding from people on the outside watching different coaching styles versus what people may have actually felt in those locker rooms. And so to, like, write it off as, like, well, Bill Belichick and Nick Saban and Brian Flores they're all like these hardo guys. Like, there is probably nuance to it. And to your point, I think different players probably have different experiences themselves with how they receive some of the criticism or the coaching that they're getting from these coaches.
I'd say even within the same locker room, you have different perceptions of the way that they are, right? Like you're always going to have a disgruntled former player of Belichick or Saban or whoever that feels like they were wronged, and they don't have that good feeling towards their former coach. Like Tua did not have a good relationship with him, obviously, right? But that's not to say that former Dolphins don't like Brian Flores or don't think that he did a good job.
Tua said all other members of my draft class as well. Amin could speak to this because you have to have a combination of ingredients, Stugotz. The first word in tough love is tough, but you better have something that resembles the love somewhere in there. You can disrespect me if I know that you are someone who actually respects me, and I also respect. But the relationship has to be real, and it has to be not of reputation. Like, it has to be born of you having endured things. Tua comes into the league. He's a novice. He doesn't have any confidence. The first coach he's getting is not giving him anything that resembles care. It's the opposite of that.
You can be tough on your players, but Dan, you said it perfectly. You have to show signs if you're a coach. You can be both. I can be tough on you, and at times I'm going to show you just how much I care about you. Players need to know that you're in this with them, that you actually care about them outside of the football field. You care about them. You care about their family. But this is a discussion about Flores not preparing himself in his first head coaching job for his quarterback and what makes his quarterback, tick. And if I'm him, I talk to Nick Saban. I talk to people who know him. Dan, you can't just treat everyone the same way. I don't care.
Yes.
I don't care how much experience you have.
Stugotz.
There are 75 men there.
Yes.
You don't treat them all the same way.
Understood, Stugotz.
Jesus.
But when your standard at the position is all you've known there is Brady, you might have an unreasonable standard for where it is your quarterback play should be.
I think Brady showed you at the end that he was tired of being treated that way.
Well, Tua also joined the league in like somewhat of a transitional phase, right? Just like not just in the league, but societally, right? Where beforehand, like all the rookies were hazed and they had to prove themselves and they had their heads shaved and they were like bullied essentially, right? And he joined the league where it was kind of like, well, that's not happening anymore. But you have a head coach who's come up as an assistant coach in situations where that was kind of the norm. So I could see him thinking, well, like, this is just how we treat the rookies. Prove yourself. And he was improving himself.
The rules changed on Flores as the power shifted, and it shifted right around when Mahomes told the commissioner, get out there and apologize. Like, all that stuff was happening in a way that Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady took inventory of. All of them saw what LeBron did. All of them saw that. And Chris, you sat next to you smelled the confidence on Tua because he got his money and his power, and now he knows, reinforced. Imagine how Tua viewed that yesterday. Imagine how Tua, this person who derailed my confidence at a time I was fragile, I decided to finally unload on him, and then he watched as the guy has to get out there with two literal Vikings. They should have been wearing horns and furs for protection because of what he's about to do, a press conference that he's had to get consulting on how to handle as a defensive coordinator.
I think support is better than protection, right?
You know what I mean, though? Like, just they're standing like soldiers next to him because he needs, the whole thing was strange.
Why didn't he just get on that yacht with Stephen Ross and Tom Brady, allegedly? Like, why was that the point of integrity? Like,
Brady would be going into the Hall of Fame 5 years from now as a Dolphin.
I will not cheat. I will not get on that yacht. That's against the rules. Come on, man.
He was a moral man, and look at where he ends up, the poor guy. But
this will teach you, kids. Morality gets you nowhere. Where's the camera to look into? Don't be moral. Gets you nothing.
You can speak to, the lack of respect that you've seen coaches have from their players who try the tough guy style. And if the player doesn't believe that you care about him, the player is not going to work with you to make you better at your job.
That's right, Dano. You got to have some amount of respect that's already baked in, Dano. See, here's the deal with coaching hard, right? The player has to believe that you believe in them. You might say, hey, that sucked. Hey, get your head out of your ass. Hey, bring me more energy first thing in the morning. Waka, 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 waka. But if you don't send that up with a little bit of, hey, but I actually think you're really good at your job when you're applying yourself, then it kind of feels like you think I suck. So that doesn't mean, folks, that Brian Flores is a terrible person. But from Tua's perspective, Brian Flores presented himself as a terrible person because it was always negative and none of the positive. And without that, how's Tua supposed to know, hey, I actually belong in this league? And as a result,
Oh, wow.
Brian Flores has got to go. Back to you, Dano.
What do you mean he's got to go? What do you got to go? What? The
Where's he
Vikings have to
going?
fire
He's
him?
gotta go.
He had to go
Gotta
from
go.
Miami.
As a result, he got
Good
it.
energy.
He had to go.
Yeah.
Cowbell spoke.
I can't relate to getting disrespected at work. I don't know what to. I can't relate to
I
this.
know I can't.
So, yeah, I'm going to have to do more research on this.
Well, it's funny that you should say this because before the show, Stugotz, I caught, I think, Chris Cody in a bit of a tell. We were asking some follow-up questions on the codes that the Oklahoma State players are going to wear on the helmets to get donations to NIL. And Chris Cody used the phrase while signing Tony work on research, I was looking at an article. He didn't use the word reading or retaining as a verb. I was looking at an article, and as executive producer, he gave Tony the work of find out for me more about this story that I allegedly read, but I'm using the phrase, I was looking at an article.
Well done, Chris. I have looked at many articles.
Don't we all look at articles?
Yeah.
I envision you
Love a good look.
seeing an article and just looking at it, and that's all you did. You didn't actually read any of the story.
Just the headline.
That is, this is a crazy amount of commercial that college football is going when they're just putting the GoFundMe right on the players' helmets. You can't do it more commercially capitalistic than that,
It
can
feels
you?
lazy.
Hang on, wait. So we just went from Chris being like, I can't imagine being on at work, to Dan being like, let me just on you for something that just happened.
That's right, Jessica.
That's explaining the show, Jessica. 2 minutes. Go ahead and sit in the penalty box.
Sticking up for my friend.
That's unnecessary
imaging.
here.
Seems like the QR code, you scan it and it doesn't go to the individual players. It goes to like the NIL collective.
fund,
So like the fund is there, but still don't talk to me about negotiating until December.
I mean, hit some imaging.
You can.
I don't have this imaging for giving away the goods of the show. Yes, he said he was disrespected all the time, and then I shit on him. That's exactly what happened. Didn't need the recap.
Smells good.
I pawned that work off to Fuentes, so he's working on it.
Okay,
So he's reading it?
So
Yeah,
no,
he
he's
is.
looking at an article.
We got the gist of it.
What I
Yeah.
gathered was
Yes.
you can select a player, but we don't know. I just looked at it. I didn't read it. I don't know if it actually goes to that player.
No, I just told you where it goes. It goes to the NIL fund. I read the article in the time you guys were talking about reading the article.
No, Fuentes is still looking at it.
Okay, we'll get to Fuentes then.
Right.
I don't have the penalty I would need in order to.
Sorry.
Greg Cody, major penalty, 5 minutes, me maximum.
That's not it.
Nailed it.
She didn't do that. Right.
I don't have one for the sound I would need to kick her out.
QR codes on TV are really tricky. And
I
this
hate
says
them.
it's 1.5 inches like wide or tall. Like that's impossible. How are you supposed to? You're supposed to pause your TV and then you get it, and then you have to like zoom in, tap on it, and then you have to hit the link underneath, and then like, this is a lot of work.
Also, it's lazy. So the whole thing is, we're selling our name, image, and likeness, right? So I'm, Tony's Autos, right? And it's like, you know what? I'd love to have the starting quarterback, come in and do a little meet and greet. No, Tony, just tap that QR code, throw some money in there, and we'll see how it goes.
Thing is, it's a moving target. It's on the back of their helmets. It's not like they're stationary the entire time. Like Ollie Gordon's in the cut, like making it, and then you're like, oh, damn it.
Maybe after a concussion, just laid out on the floor. And there he is.
Well,
He stopped moving.
Be face up, though.
I'm genuinely curious about this. I think I told you the movie Don't Look Up on climate change. So many things happened in the world that Adam McKay had to cut out of a fictional movie because they actually happened during the time of the pandemic. And so he had to cut out all of those jokes. If we were to make a movie about college football and its commercialization, if I was trying to write something for 90 days from now, I couldn't write something as funny as we're just putting the codes on the helmets. Like we're going to ask for these people to be more humanized while making them play 40 games in 3 weeks and making sure that we can find their helmet donation site with the laser on our phone in order to make sure that college football doesn't have to pay its own players. They're just crowdsourcing it all.
In football's defense, they put N races on helmets, and that worked. So this should work too.
Dan Le Batard.
Go ahead, Billy. Ask him your question.
Is gymnastics possibly corrupt?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Stugotz.
I got some phlegm in my mouth, yeah.
It's okay. Vacation.
Yeah.
Is gymnastics possibly corrupt?
This is
Dan Le Batard Show.
with the Stugotz.
The return of the rejoin with some canned music here.
I miss a rejoin, man.
This is our canned music. This is our musical.
Almost Grammy nominated.
Almost Grammy nominated. That's right. David Samson of Nothing Personal is with us. You could catch his show every day, 8 a.m. live. He does a solo show unlike any that I've seen in the sports media market, where he's just flying through 50 minutes by himself, doing a lot of stuff that other people are not doing. Can we play some video for him, please, of Robert De Niro? Because, Samson, we were discussing earlier this week, De Niro, is he a top 5 movie star for you of all time? Yes or no question, no elaboration.
No.
All right, let's get this video here of Robert De Niro jumping off a boat, because his last 10 years have not been excellence personified. Let's see what we've got here. Yes.
So crazy.
Yes, that is a late 80s.
Looks like he got pushed.
Early 80s Robert De Niro. Where do you place him in the pantheon there, Samson?
Well, it's way too much splash. So that entry to the water was well below average. But maybe he's trying to entertain his new child. So that could have been what he was doing. But if you're asking as an actor, he's certainly done some amazing movies and amazing roles that I've loved, but I think his reputation is far greater had he not lived this long and done this many bad movies. I think that's hurt him.
Can we watch the dive again? I'm sorry. It just does. It's very uncoordinated. Yeah. I would be concerned if this were my grandpa or my father, which he could be both, or my husband.
This shouldn't be an 80-year-old jumping from this height. That seems generally unsound.
By the way, if you look, his shorts go down in the water. He has to pull them back up. So we could have almost seen a little bald eagle.
Really? A little bald eagle.
Dan, I'm watching the replays of this video. I don't think he jumped. I think the word you want to give is plummeted. He plummeted.
I think he fell.
Yeah, he fell off.
Yeah,
right.
poor guy.
Yes.
Twists and turns aplenty on that billionaire missing boat situation yesterday. Dan. I don't know if you saw that. We can get to that later.
I feel like there would be more panic if he fell. It seemed like people were like, this is fun. Good, clean fun.
That's so crazy.
He seems fine. Billy, what are the updates in the missing billionaire story? Is it indeed an inside job? Because I really do think that Stugotz at all time has a heist movie playing in his head.
Well, so it turns out that a water spout just came out of nowhere and attacked this boat. What are you putting your hand? Do you know what a water spout is?
They all come out of nowhere.
Yeah. No, I know, but this is the only boat that was hit. So, like, this boat that was filled with the billionaire that is now missing and a number of powerful people, some of which had kind of some questionable situations going on behind the scenes. This water spout just went and hit this boat, sunk the boat, and then didn't damage anything else. It's almost as though somehow this water spout knew.
So not an inside job.
Well,
so I was right.
Here's the thing about water spouts. Itsy Bitsy Spider survived.
I don't think that that's a thing about water spouts.
You keep believing the water spout theory, okay? Because the more ridiculous the theory is, the more likely I am to tell you inside job. I mean, who's going to buy that? Get out of here.
Again, the heist movie is playing on an endless loop
Water
in
spout.
Stugotz's head. Samson, did you find Brian Flores' reaction yesterday as interesting as I did?
I led this morning's Nothing Personal with it, and the reason I did is it blew me away the way he felt he had to have two players. And I've had the conversation when you want to get players onto a dais and how difficult it is to do. And he needed two players by his side as some sort of show of strength. And you touched on it earlier in the show. I don't think it made him look stronger when he talked about how genuinely happy he is for Tua, or when he mentioned the fact that he has nothing against him. He wishes him nothing but the best. And by the way, look at the leadership and friendship I got to my left and my right. I think it made him look weaker, though he did have to address the media. I would have preferred a far different approach, which was, hey, listen, there were a lot of reasons it didn't work out in Miami. Tua's play was part of that, but not the entire thing. I obviously have moved on, and I'm all about the Vikings. I don't think I needed to hear him say I've corrected and I've improved and I want to be better. I think it was a bunch of horse hockey.
Wait a minute. Why would you be against accountability there? You want him to just...
For what, Dan? For him not liking Tua?
For his quarterback saying he's a terrible person who spent a lot of time negative coaching him.
Dan, do you want everyone who works for you coming out and saying that you're a terrible person if they think it or if they don't think it? Then you're going to sit there and explain that you're not a terrible person?
I want to keep my job and climb in the ranks of dreaming. Like, this is a man who wants to coach in the NFL again as a head coach. What are you shaking your head no about?
He sued the league. He shouldn't have a job to begin with. I can't believe any team gave him a job. He should be thankful that he's a defensive coordinator of any team.
But that's why his tone was what it was, though, David. He's grateful to be in the league. He understands he's on the fringes of the league with a few friends, and he's trying to make sure he stays in the league.
Well, he doesn't get an Oscar for that performance in my mind. It was almost 85-year-old De Niro-like. I think it was so obvious, the sunglasses being flanked by two players and then saying, I've corrected myself, I've improved myself. But I don't know why he needed to improve himself, because he's friends with the guys in the equipment room and all the kitchen staff. And over 21 years, he's got tons of players who love him. And look at my two buddies next to me.
I love the idea and the visual of all of us crushing Dan and Dan holding a press conference and he walks up on the stage with Mike Malley and Ethan. I mean,
crossing their arms.
That's exactly what it is. It's almost absurd. It would be you having like the video team next to you and saying, look at me, I'm the nicest guy in the world.
It's Lewis and GQ back there.
Well, no one would believe that.
What do you make of what it is that that happened then? Because you're sitting here telling us that you never believe that management should look vulnerable, do you?
That's interesting. There are times, yes, when a player of yours dies, I would say there's vulnerability that is shown. That was real, but I can't think of another example. Not with trades or lack of performance.
It takes death for you to care. The body has to be dead for you to care about it.
I would say, as management, when you are front facing, I think death is a very important condition precedent.
David, let me ask you, were you...
You guys are going to let that slide?
Yeah,
like that's the line? That the line on him caring is once you're in the coffin and you don't require his care anymore. Like
that's when he starts caring.
That he cares when it's literally too late.
You're incorrect. And I do not resemble those comments. I care very deeply about those left behind. I care very deeply about when there is tragedy and when there is death. But when do leagues step up? When a hurricane, if it's one water spout with one boat, you're not going to get the union and the league getting together to make a donation. You get a water spout that takes out 20 boats and 1,000 people, and you'll get a collective donation and a press conference.
So we need 1,000 people to die. Got it. David, are you upset about what he said, or are you upset about the format in which he said it? Meaning, if he had a sit-down with Dan to rebut, and within that sit-down, he says some of the vulnerable stuff that he said in that press conference, would you feel better about that?
Well, for sure, because that's what sit-downs with Dan are, is, you get comfortable, then you get vulnerable, and you get the sort of puppet strings pulled, and all of a sudden you got headlines. I'm disappointed with what Flores did, because he had to react. The Vikings told him he had to do it, that he had to meet the media. They told him to find players, and they asked the players to do it. That is most certainly how it happened. But I'm disappointed with the tone, because what is he being conciliatory toward? Toward a player who didn't like him? Toward the fact that his team stunk? I wasn't clear.
David, an assistant coach in that league who's got a lawsuit against the league cannot have all of the players believing he's an asshole, and an unearned asshole on top of that. Like, he can't have he will not have the respect of any players. What Tua just did to him is damaging in a way that gets to other players, because Tua's not that, the quarterback position doesn't do that. And Tua specifically, everyone knows he's a decent person. So when he does it, the words carry more weight.
But in his defense, he's been on two teams since, and he's coached other players, right? Like, I'm sure every coach in the league has a player, at least one, thinking they're a giant asshole, right? So this is just the one that
thinking
vocalized
it. Yeah, but that's a big difference in
Saying
that
it out
sport.
loud, yeah.
Like, it's like the Army.
Well, do you think that there's people on teams that are like, well, I don't know about this Brian Flores, but as soon as Tua said he's an like, well, I can't play for him. Their coach is probably.
Yeah, but nobody says that publicly. Like, it's a huge difference.
The idea that you would say it out loud on the record unequivocally makes it way worse than just the prevailing notion that everyone's got an.
But he also waited till he had job security to do that.
Yes, he did.
Of course.
And success.
And new teeth.
And money.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me that Tua decided to do this now and decided in the way in which he did it. And I think that if you asked him in a moment of truth, he would tell you that he would prefer that not to have been said.
Why do you think that?
Because that's a type of distraction. McDaniel had to deal with it. They're about to start a season. There's no upside to what Tua did. It's great for content. It's a great interview.
What's the downside? What's the downside in his locker room?
Is that the current coaches look at him and say, okay, so now I am subject to this possibility that if I coach him in a way that he doesn't like as his quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator, or head coach, I am at risk of him going public and it in some way possibly forcing me to respond or even hurting my credibility.
Yeah, but you just at every turn, David, figure out ways for the power to retain the power. It doesn't allow the power to shift in an organization. That became a possibility the moment that they guaranteed him that much of the money. He can do that whenever he wants now because he's got the job security that Stugotz will only criticize him if he does this with the job security. Stugotz wants it to be better. Stugotz wants it to be Kaepernick. Say something that gets you run out of the league because you believe in it so much.
So I also believe that Tua was emboldened by the fact that he got the guaranteed money and it sort of made him be a little bit more loose. And then you put you in the equation and all of a sudden you've got the headline.
There it is.
But I still find it to be questionable and I don't think it's a positive. Are you telling me that someone in that any of you think that this was positive for the Dolphins in any way?
I just don't see how negative it is. I don't. The filing stuff under distractions is so tired. It's so tired. The idea that you would that anything that will happen in the first week of the season will be impacted by what Tua said 10 days out.
I think Tua's fans liked it too. I mean, I think that this is probably something that they wanted to hear because now they feel like justified in sort of like the narrative that Mike McDaniel's been the savior for Tua, which I'm not saying is false, but you know, I think this was something his fans probably liked hearing.
It also shows personality too, like in a way that we've never seen Tua's personality before. Now he's saying things that are outspoken. Like, when have we ever heard anything from Tua outside of this contract negotiation, outside of show me the money, and now this conversation? Like, I haven't heard anything of Tua.
What I hear of Tua is when he's protecting himself and getting new training so he's not going to get concussions, all of that happening when he doesn't have the long-term security. And now you're marrying that with this long-term contract that he got. And then with now giving him credit for being outspoken, I'm not sure that bringing up dirty laundry, players don't actually appreciate that when other players do it. And you're right, Dan, distractions don't last longer than the current media cycle, which will end very shortly as soon as we stop covering it. But at the end of the day, players talk about that stuff inside the locker room in the clubhouse. They don't want to go on the dais and support Flores. They don't want to be asked about Flores or about McDaniel, which Dolphins players are now asked about. It becomes a thing they just don't want to be bothered with.
All Tua said was he prefers a particular style of coaching. He's not saying he wouldn't play for an asshole coach. He is saying he prefers his coach, his boss, to be nice when he shows up every single day. I think Joe Rose, the big dog, said it best this morning. Why are we still talking about this?
I think the thing with Tua too, like as much as we want to praise, like, oh, look how outspoken he is, look at his personality, look at this, like ultimately anyone, what they want down here is for him to win a playoff game. Like if he doesn't win a playoff game, be as outspoken as you want. Like I don't want to hear it from you. Win a playoff game.
He also called him a terrible person.
Yeah, a bit, yeah. I wonder if he would. I honestly wonder if he would take back as strong as he was if you were to ask him again, because he seems in interviews that you've seen as like a decent person and like. Calling someone, saying you're a jerk, whatever, but like terrible person is like very personal. And it feels like it goes a little bit farther than maybe intended.
But if you think Tua is a decent guy, if you think he's a good guy, if you've never heard Tua like that, think how bad it must have been for Tua for him to say
You know what, though? I'd make a qualifier here on nuance. I don't think he actually meant to call Flores a terrible person. I think he was using the hypothetical. Imagine you wake up every morning and you have a terrible person behind you saying bad things all the time. I didn't actually think that he was directing that.
That is kind of implying if he said it that way.
No, I know, but he was trying to make. I asked him to explain it to me in practical terms, and he says, "This is as dumb as I can do it here. Someone terrible behind you is telling you suck all the time. You suck all the time." Can you imagine what that would feel like?
Terrible.
David, what did you make of the Marlins and what they're doing with ticket pricing? Do you can you explain to us what's real and what's perception there?
So what's real is that they announced 6,794 at Marlins Park last night against the Diamondbacks. I can't believe they allowed that to be the announced attendance on the day that they're in the news cycle getting attention for this new season ticket plan, which is not new. It's something that we've done over 20 years, and every team does it. They're called flex season tickets. Meaning, hey, we know you don't want to come to 81 games because if you do, you're sort of an overwhelming super fan. Come to any amount of games you want, sit wherever you want, which is sort of like buying an individual ticket in advance. But the reason we want to call it a season ticket is we want you to pay now so we can keep track of our revenue, so we can figure out what our payroll is going to be. All they're trying to do is get money up front from people who would normally buy one game at a time, and then you make up a bunch of benefits that no one takes advantage of and don't really matter at the end of the day, and you get some good articles written about you.
The NFL is running its business impeccably. They are far and ahead of everybody in everything they're doing to monetize. Private equity in the NFL. What are your thoughts there as somebody who covers sports business better than anybody out there? Again, I tell people nothing personal is the place to look if you're really interested in the minutia of sports business. Can you explain to me what's happening with the NFL and private equity? And furthermore, can you explain to me how it is the NFL gets away still charging for these preseason games the way they do?
Well, let me start with the second one. I was in Denver. I went to the Broncos-Packers preseason game, and I was...
Why?
It's a great question because my girlfriend's a Packers fan and I love the Packers, and I was in Denver and the Packers were playing. And so we were on our way to Red Rocks for an OAR concert and stopped and watched the first half of the preseason game. It was so bad. And here's what I realized. There will be an 18th game, and I don't care what anyone says. It doesn't matter what the union says or what management says. It is a fait accompli that there'll be an 18th game, and it will be in exchange for one fewer preseason game. Fans aren't interested. They're not gambling as much on preseason games. Nobody plays. It was a high school team, basically, who played for the Packers. Jordan Love was there in his skivvies along with half the other starting players. And it's just a waste of everyone's time and money. And why do that when you have a chance to make more money and waste less time? So that's that for preseason. Private equity, I did a 15-minute segment this morning. Let me sum it up for you this way. If you want to get billions of dollars for your team and keep the value of your team increasing, there's a limited number of Bezoses in the world, so you've got to find other pockets of money. And what private equity means is you take all your money, Dan, you put it together with everybody's money, and you look for investments that give you a return on that investment. And it turns out that owning sports teams is a good investment. So there is a huge amount of cash out there ready to be deployed in different sectors, and sports is the latest sector. The NFL is the last league to allow it, and in an owners meeting coming up this week, they will allow it. It will be voted on, and mark my words, Dan, there will be private equity investment in an NFL team immediately because it's a way for owners to take some cash off the table and diversify.
What concert did you say you went to?
OAR. Is that not a bait? Did I say it wrong?
You said it perfectly.
Fine. Yeah.
No one said that you said it wrong. Was the Springsteen concert that Jeff Passan and Woj and all of America's sports media was at not available to you?
I didn't happen to be there at that time. I do like Bruce Springsteen. I wouldn't have wanted to be in that photo necessarily.
You don't say.
Boss.
Big surprise. Put it on the poll. Is the boss's demo 55 to 70?
Is it David?
White people white men at Le Batard Show. What's the movie you're reviewing for us this week?
Speaking of 55 to 70 white people, can we talk about Pete Rose? Tell me somebody in the room watched the 4-part miniseries.
I have.
On
I
Pete
watched
Rose.
it. I thought that it could have been better. I thought that it was a lot of celebration of how good his teams were, and I would have liked a little more on the underbelly of stuff.
I loved
that he has.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of underbelly to the point that I don't think baseball was happy with that documentary, to tell you the truth. The underbelly that I saw is it both helped baseball in saying, look at Pete Rose. He's done nothing to help himself. He does nothing but trip over his own toes. He'll never get reinstated. But on the other hand, I felt sorry for him for the first time. And I had not felt that before because I had not aged him appropriately, because I've only seen him sitting behind a desk signing autographs in Vegas. I didn't see how slowly he moves and how old he's getting. And boy, it would be a shame if he dies, and that's then when people start caring and he gets reinstated. So my vote after that documentary is you don't need the 4 hours to spend watching it. However, you should give some thought into whether or not the punishment has fit the crime.
Oh, well, this part is interesting, though, and I'd be curious what Amin thinks on this, because the thing that they did best as a last play, because this felt like basically, how do we weave the tapestry that tugs on the heartstrings that shows everybody that this baseball immortal is old and there's no point to letting him in the Hall of Fame after he's dead. It means too much to him while he's alive. Like, to me, that felt like the last Hail Mary that Pete Rose has to get his story humanized in front of people. You cannot gamble on your team. It's a hard and fast rule. No matter how much the gambling rules change, you cannot contaminate the integrity of the league. That's the one rule that's not allowed to be fractured.
The only other Hail Mary he has after that one, Dan, is contrition. He's never said, I did it. I shouldn't have done it, man. I regret doing it. It's ruined my life. Now I'll never get into the Hall of Fame, look up into the camera with big, wet cartoon eyes, right? That's the only play he has left. The problem is he's never, ever, ever taking that L of saying, yep, I did it and I shouldn't have done it. It's always like, well, I was betting on this over there. And I think that's the biggest hurdle. David, do you agree?
Yeah, it's the third rail that he touched, and generally you die from touching the third rail. The thing is that there's been a lot of lifetime penalties of people who have done things that are third rail-ish, and they have gotten spared. And the thing about Pete Rose is what I spoke about with the commissioner when he was running for office, when we were talking about the Pete Rose situation. I suggested that he remove him from the ineligible list because that would make him allowed to be on a ballot or to be considered for election, and let the writers and let the committee have its decision about Pete Rose. This way, we satisfy all constituencies. And it's hard for either Manfred or Selig to do anything out of respect to Bart Giamatti, who did the lifetime ban and then died of a heart attack 5 or 6 days later. And so no one's wanted to reverse that out of respect for Giamatti. And then I thought maybe after Bud passes away that they would do it. I mean, Bud has not, and I don't want him to. I hope he lives to 105. But I know Rob is respectful of Bud, who would never overturn it. And when I asked the commissioner, would he consider that, he thought about it. But his view is, let's wait. Let's not decide this now. He'll keep appealing, and we'll think about it then. And then has turned into, 10 years later.
I pulled up similar bands to OAR, and what I got was Journey.
White guys, white.
The Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, yeah.
White guys, white.
Matchbox 20.
Mm-hmm.
White guys,
You can criticize me all you want. It's a great venue.
And the Gin Blossoms.
Oh, I like that.
White.
Jessica, are you learning right now that Bart Giamatti is the father of Paul Giamatti?
No, I did actually know that. I was recently on Paul's wiki page because I watched The Holdovers, and he's such a damn cutie, that Paul. Love him.
I learned that his father died less than a week after banning Pete Rose.
See you later, David.
Left out Sister Hazel.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show is presented by Smirnoff. We do game days. Please drink responsibly. The Smirnoff Company, New York City, New York.
Let me get that ambient sound out there so it feels like a press conference. I just want to start off by saying I am genuinely happy for Amin, for Jessica. I wish them nothing but the best. Relationships are important to me. They've always been important to me. It's important to me to have relationships with people who work around me whose names I don't know because they haven't been here long enough. I just wanted to tell Amin and Jessica that I may have been a little hard on them. I've done some learning since the first hour. I want to have a positive impact on people.
Terrible person.
I want you guys just to be the best version of yourselves. The two of you. The two of you. It's a Tua joke. It's a bad Tua joke.
It was a bad one.
Yeah, it was a bad Tua joke. So I just wanted everyone to know that I've done some real learning that I'm not going to take any questions on. So I'll just throw the show back to you guys now.
Seem real supported. I mean,
I'm just surprised he didn't thank all the kitchen people.
Yep.
I don't know all their names. Fried pork is aggressive in the morning, by the way.
It is.
Beyond bacon.
Yeah.
If you go beyond bacon, that's aggressively Miami. Tony, I've seen you sniffing around the fried pork.
I had a couple chicharrones, Dan. I'm not going to lie. I had a couple of them.
Flores should have done this.
you
Just
guys-
start on Tua and then just start riffing on other stuff.
Do you guys think it would have been better if he had the kitchen staff walk out with him?
And the equipment room.
Yeah, the commissary, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Dan's
Man of
right,
the people.
though. We usually save Chicharron Day for Friday, but today's Wednesday. It's a little early in the week.
I've had 2 things of squeaky cheese, and man, I am feeling it.
The rare Wednesday that feels like a Friday.
Oh, I love that. Is it possible that Flores could only find 2 guys to support him? Like he could only muster up 2 people? He went around the entire locker room, and the first 2 that said yes.
You have him doing the Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
Who's coming with me?
I do-
Everyone just stared at him.
I do wonder if that was something that the 2 players came up to him and were like, hey, like he woke up to a text like, I'm going to be with you there today. Or does the PR person go around like, all right, we're looking for 2 people.
Need 2.
Need 2.
They start raffling off like days off from camp. I got you a full day and a round of golf. Who can, I hear a round of golf. 2 rounds. 2 rounds.
Do you think there was a crisis PR meeting about how many players? Because, is 2 sad? Yes. And will people question why there aren't more?
Yes.
But is 5 way too many? And now it's like,
2
all right,
was too
guys,
many.
come on.
I felt like 2 was too many. Was it not?
Not enough.
One would be sad, though.
No. Why does he need players behind him?
He doesn't need players behind him. It becomes. Did both those guys practice having their arms crossed? Like that? Was that something they decided beforehand? Let's
Wait,
stand
Ethan
like
and Mike?
security
Well,
next
that's
to
how
him.
you do it. Yeah.
It has to be an even number, though, right? Because,
No, three would have been cool.
no, because where do you put the third?
Right beyond his back.
Right
Yeah.
behind him?
Yeah.
But then it has to be someone.
I got your back. Yeah.
It has to be someone much bigger than him.
Yeah.
He's bigger than one of the guys.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, but you know what? I owe an apology. I owe an apology to Ethan because I told Ethan, hey, man, you got to keep it together, man. He looked like he was about to crack several times. But now I'm looking at that picture, and my man on Brian Flores is right. He looks like he's about to crack.
He's like, what am I doing here?
His posture is like joking almost.
Yeah, like, hey, guys.
0 is the number of players that it needed to be. And I want to circle back on what it is that we were talking about, which is, Billy, you've grown up around Cuban culture all your life, so it's normal, chicharrones. But fried pork at 8 in the morning is aggressive.
So
beyond bacon.
I think that's left over from yesterday, and we just know that people wanted to picar. Yeah, no, yesterday we had pincho. I think that's leftover pincho from yesterday. So we have stuff to picar, and I think it was in the fridge, so they just put it on the hot plates, and they're like, if anybody wants a snack, we have some leftovers here. It's heated up. Because I walked out there, and I said, do I want queso frito at 10 a.m.? Yes. Is this going to be good for my tummy? No.
It was extra squeaky today. I guess it being from yesterday makes sense.
Yeah, but well, man, you warm that thing up. It tasted good, and if you toss that in the air fryer, I'm sure it's the greatest thing that's ever been consumed on Earth.
I think the problem is that the queso frito and the chicharrón were ordered for Lewis's birthday, but Lewis, we found out, has multiple birthdays, so there's some sort of discrepancy happening right now with it being served on both days.
I've learned here if parties don't go exactly as planned, we just cancel them. Wow. Even if your pregnant wife is sitting in the corner.
Now, Billy, can I just ask a question again? You said yesterday you guys had pinche? Is that what you said?
No, Pincho. Pincho Factory.
Yeah, it's the name of a restaurant, local. You want to go? I'll take you one day.
Well, the other words.
Wait, where did the flan come from this morning, Amin? That
It came from last week.
He left it from last week. Isn't pincho just shish kebab in Spanish? Isn't that what un pincho is?
Oh, it's more than just that.
They do a lot of stuff.
Literally,
they do burgers.
yes,
They do a guayaba pastelito burger where the two buns are pastelitos de guayaba, and then you put a burger in between. It's incredible.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
I will say it again, though. At Le Batard Show, Juju put it on the poll. Is fried pork and fried cheese before 10 a.m. too aggressive?
Of course it is.
Because I was alarmed at the amount of chicharron sniffers there were out there.
That doesn't
Deeply
sound right.
unhealthy.
It's keto, Dan. It's healthy. You're good. Cheese and meat.
Yeah, yes.
Down the gullet.
Yes, no carbs, but generally fried pork. It's got that much fat on it. It was more fat than pork.
There's a hard part too, Popo. Aquí me rompo el diente.
I had to send a special message on Friday. Please don't give Willow any chicharron because usually Roy, he's standing there in front of the bacon because normally we just have regular bacon and normally he's just doling it out to her.
No,
And
that'll
no
give a
chicharron.
dog the runs.
I don't want her to get pancreatitis.
Yes, that a dog can eat bacon. That what is out there is too aggressive. Stugotz, I wanted to talk about what happened last night. Maybe too late at night for young Jessica because she's not watching anything after 11:30, and I think a lot of people had the reaction that Kamala's lucky that Michelle Obama didn't decide to run for office because at this point, the sanity of that party, which is now the party of the arts and the party of entertainment, last night compared to the RNC and the starchiness of that event, you had DJ Cassidy, and they turned roll call into something that was entertaining. They turned it into something that was not unpleasant to watch if you're someone who doesn't care about politics and is just about state pride and whatnot. And then the Obamas speak, and they have to let, Kamala's in 2 days, so they don't have to steal it all, but they are both very good public orators, and they had the sway of that room in their hands.
Good, they're great. Are you kidding me? The best I've ever seen.
I watched Obama speak, Barack, and I thought to myself, damn, can you imagine if he was running? Like, it would be like, what's the biggest landslide in American election history? Was it Reagan over Mondale in 84?
Tony.
Right? Oh, look at Tony.
Summer of 84, nothing like it.
It was the same thing for me. I was just like, oh, that's what this is like.
Man,
I missed this.
The
just
LA
like,
games.
Man, just owning the room, and it was just like, man, that's impressive.
I would have voted for Obama for a third term.
No doubt, yes.
So what's happened in the last 12 years, because it's weird, Stugotz, I do recall in the last 12 years, I remember our show reacting to the politics of the time and the general stupidity of George Bush and starting wars in countries that didn't do the things to us that we were accusing them of. Barack Obama came in as one man representing hope. And I remember telling people at the time, he's just one man. He can't do much of anything against an entirely corrupt system. But he ran on a platform of hope. A lot has changed in the last 12 years, and it's harder and harder to hope. But what he articulated last night was something that sounded like hope and was surrounded by a party and DJs.
I know these ideas can feel pretty naive right now. We live in a time of such confusion and rancor, with a culture that puts a premium on things that don't last. Money, fame, status, likes. We chase the approval of strangers on our phones. We build all manner of walls and fences around ourselves, and then we wonder why we feel so alone. We don't trust each other as much because we don't take the time to know each other. And in that space between us, politicians and algorithms teach us to caricature each other and troll each other and fear each other. But here's the good news, Chicago. All across America, in big cities and small towns, away from all the noise, the ties that bind us together are still there. We still coach Little League and look out for our elderly neighbors. We still feed the hungry in churches and mosques and synagogues and temples. We share the same pride when our Olympic athletes compete for the gold. Because the vast majority of us do not want to live in a country that's bitter and divided. We want something better. We want to be better. And the joy and the excitement that we're seeing around this campaign tells us we're not alone.
Did you stay up for it, Jessica, or did you fall asleep?
Dan, I was so exhausted after all the states did the roll call, going from song to song, like, ooh, what's California going to be? It was tantalating. I'm not going to lie, I ate that up. That was fun. Sean Astin was there. It was amazing.
Was he digging a pool?
What?
Gotta laugh. That's all that matters.
Tantalizing and eating is tantalating. Both of those things are but you were moved by the musical choices, by California skipping its turn so that they can go last because they were too soon alphabetically and just waiting around for Vermont?
I assume that they went last because they were where Kamala is from, because Minnesota was second to last, I believe.
No.
I could be wrong.
I thought it was alphabetical, and then they skipped their turn so that they could be last.
Was it? I don't know.
Yes.
I have no idea. I could not tell you.
I think they wanted to be the one to seal the nomination, so they passed on their turn, so they'd be the official ones to nominate someone from their state.
It would have been a hell of a twist if they hadn't, right? They nominated someone else.
It would have, yes.
Michelle Obama.
Yeah. Oh,
a surprise twist.
Well, I saw that, so I tuned in like midway through. I saw that Florida's song was Tom Petty, I Won't Back Down. And I was wondering if the Miamians in the room were upset that they didn't choose Pepas.
The part that I liked is when they're going Lil Jon, and evidently when he goes Harris to the walls, they don't know what the next lyrics are at the DNC, that they don't know what comes after from the window to the walls.
Till the sweat drops down my balls.
That's right.
Amin was going to ask you.
And I was going to say that. Not like that. Not as well as Jessica did it. But I'm guessing that that's not something they knew when they did that. Do you think that the DNC knew?
That was Old Blue Eyes? I don't know what you're talking about.
People are mad that Frank Sinatra's been supplanted there at Yankee Stadium, and that near that short porch, Stugotz, they're still singing New York, New York by Sinatra, and they're not going to let Jay-Z and Alicia Keys have it.
Well, it's a good call by Yankee fans because Frank Sinatra owns that town. That song should always be New York song.
They only play it when they win. I think when they lose, they play Tony Bennett.
Huh.
Yankee games.
Really?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly sure about that one. Little Yankee notes here on a Wednesday morning. Energy.
Ben Affleck and J-Lo got divorced yesterday.
Again?
No.
It was official. It was made official yesterday. But we had the pictures from last week, and Ben Affleck in public with a faux hawk. That says divorced right there. He announced divorce with that photo of him in a faux hawk, a leather jacket, and sunglasses.
He looks like Biff's grandson from Back to the Future 2, Griff.
Griff.
How do we feel about another? I thought that these kids were going to make it this time.
No one thought that. Did anyone think that?
I mean, when you've already broken up once several decades ago, it just feels like, how is this going to work this time, you know?
You know what? I got to say, J-Lo, maybe you should try something different. The celebrity route's not working for you. Maybe you need to
backup dancer.
Ben
didn't
too.
work either.
Yeah, she's been married to non-celebrities.
Maybe she needs something in the middle. Not quite as famous as Ben Affleck. Not quite as anonymous as a background
What
dancer.
about Ben though? Ben's got the same sort of resume.
Does he?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, him and Jennifer Garner had a very big celebrity breakup, and
But
he
we
got
don't-
blamed for a lot of it.
We don't know much of what happened in between that and the reunion with Jennifer Lopez.
We also don't care about Ben.
Yeah, that's
We
true.
don't.
Yeah,
That's
we're gonna-
not true
We're
at
gonna
all.
cut to the chase. We don't
But
care about
Amin
Ben
is saying,
finding love. We want J-Lo to find love.
We do, yeah. We love J-Lo. But Amin is saying, listen, learn from your past mistakes and try again. right?
Adjust.
Yeah.
Grow like Brian Flores.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think you can say, look, it's difficult to age in that industry. We just made fun of De Niro falling into the water at 80 years old. He's made a lot of bad movies.
Plummeting. Dan.
Plummeting to the water.
Yes.
Ben Affleck is going to have more difficulty aging as not a joke in his 50s and 60s as an actor, but it can't be argued that Ben Affleck's not like one of the top 10, 20 of his time.
Well, he could
Whether
be.
you like his acting or not, his
That can be
stardom.
argued.
20?
I think people could argue that, but I think we're saying we don't care about him finding happiness. We care about J-Lo finding happiness.
He's always looked miserable.
Go to your Dunkin' Donuts ads.
Yeah,
go
and
to
be
your Matt
miserable.
Damon situation.
And be miserable.
Exactly right. Just stop being such a grump all the time. Maybe, look, I'm going to say it without knowing anything involved here. He was the problem in this relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, my God. What a sourpuss.
They go out. She's trying to have a good time.
Turn
She's
that
trying
frown
to
upside
smile.
down.
He's not going
It's
along with
always
anything.
something with him. He's just.
Well, it's cigarettes and a drinking issue.
Oh, look at me. I have a big
and Dunkin'
giant
Donuts.
dragon tattoo on my back.
He's rolling, Dan.
Yeah, please get out of here. We were talking before, Jess and I, before the show started, about this situation and this breakup. And I think we came to a conclusion that not many people will agree with, but I think it could be discussed here. J-Lo was the biggest loser in the whole COVID situation, right?
How?
Because she was at the top of the world with A-Rod right before the world got shut down. She just comes off performing at the Super Bowl that happens 2 weeks before they
And
shut
Hustlers,
down
right?
everything.
Hustlers was
Hustlers
a
had just
moment
come
for her
out. Yeah.
because she looked great. She learned how to do all the dancing. It was one of the first actually really good movies that she was in. I actually really liked it.
Whoa. Anaconda was like a word.
Made in Manhattan.
I actually never
Hello.
saw Anaconda.
You
Should I
didn't
watch
miss any.
Anaconda?
What?
You didn't miss
He
it.
missed
David Byrne.
everything. I mean,
Jeez.
3 whiskeys. That's
Spoiler
breakfast on the
alert,
river.
at one point, John Voight gets spit up by the anaconda, and before dying, while covered in anaconda fluids, he winks.
He winks
You don't love that?
that's
sounds
everything.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds great.
like a Costanza wink.
But she was at the time was one of the biggest celebrities out there, right?
Yeah, she was having a moment in 2019.
Terribly
2020.
timed moment though, because the world shut down, and then I guess when things started opening up again, she started trying to do a world tour, and she wanted
Well, they
to have
also
a Taylor
they had
Swift
to
moment.
postpone their wedding, right? Her and A-Rod were supposed to
Exactly
get married.
right.
I
What
think
could
they
have
had to
been?
postpone their wedding
Because
a
of
couple
COVID?
times because of COVID. Check me on that.
I
but-
hope they got the deposit back.
Well, they never did get married,
No.
correct?
No,
they
because of
didn't.
COVID.
But
Yeah.
she had that gigantic ring.
She did.
COVID really tested a lot of relationships, and theirs was one of them. And unfortunately, it didn't
failed at
work
that.
out. And then what happened? She's left in this vulnerable state where she starts making some of the same mistakes as she had previously made. She goes back to Sourpuss Ben. He's and you know his whole thing. We've gone over that.
So
and
who
now
is-
look at where we are.
Who is the celebrity you're rooting for love for the most? Is it J-Lo? Is it Jennifer Aniston? It's not Affleck? You're rooting?
Not Affleck.
It's always Jennifer Aniston.
Hasn't she found love?
I don't know.
I think, well, if it's always, shouldn't you?
I mean, I should know. I should be keeping track of this.
Yeah,
You're right.
I mean, you just said always,
We just
and
root for her.
then
I
you
mean-
just right after that just spewed your general ignorance. You don't actually know anything
Oh,
here.
thank you.
I kind of want to go back and rewatch the J-Lo video. I guess movie music video on
To see if there
Amazon
were
where
signs?
it's like about her finding the greatest love in her life, and then they filmed a documentary about making it, which I did not watch, but apparently they're both in it. And now I'm like, well, I kind of want to go do some revisionist history on this.
And on top of that,
Fascinating text.
ticket sales were very poor for her concert. And that documentary, Beyonce did the same thing without doing any harm to her career. Beyonce put out a documentary that was an intimate look at her life, and there was nothing in it. It was empty. We were better off with the mystery. but it didn't do any damage to her. J-Lo actually did some damage to herself by financing her own movie, showing us the innards of her life, and buying nothing with the public with it.
But it was weird, right? Like, wasn't that the whole thing? Like, it was just like a really strange.
It was so weird.
movie.
It was two things. It was a movie, and then it was like a documentary, right? And
Yes.
the documentary had Ben Affleck in it.
So did the movie.
Yes, but
As a cameo, dressed
like,
up as someone else.
why did you do it? And he's like, I don't know. Like he gave an answer that was definitely a harbinger of like, yes, this relationship isn't going to work
we
out.
were all getting weird vibes from the media going on around that time.
She also had that movie with Maluma where she finally found love, that it was like on Peacock or something, which is like great. And then she had that action movie on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
where it's
yeah.
Like,
Did
that
you
was a
watch
good
that
one.
movie?
Of course I watched that movie.
That was the one where she's like on the run with some guy that they were about to get married, and they're on some island, and like someone's chasing them.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the best.
Sounds like Fugitive.
Machine guns. She gets married a lot, like not just in real life, in movies. She's just a hopeless romantic. That's why I think we all want her to find love and just finally be happy.
Is she the top of the list in terms of celebrities you're rooting for to end up finding love because they deserve it after, what, is it 5 marriages now for J-Lo?
I think 4. I think she's been married 4 times.
I think sometimes you're just looking in the wrong places, Dano. I think, you know.
Got to make adjustments.
It does seem like she
Brian
found
Flores.
love at times, maybe not like a permanent, lasting love. But her and Mark Anthony, they have several children together. They were married for almost a decade, maybe longer.
Maybe it's a little bit like the Seinfeld situation. Anyone can take a reservation. Ultimately, it's the holding of the reservation that makes it functional. And she can get a relationship, get a marriage, but she got to hold it. And in order to hold it, it takes 2 sets of hands, hers and the significant other. And I just think she's been looking at the wrong hands.
The movie was called Shotgun Wedding, and it was Josh Duhamel.
Has
Friend
she
of the show.
actually made a good movie? Has she made a good movie? Has J-Lo made a? She made one with Clooney.
Hustlers was fine. Like I
She
mean,
made some good movies.
Wasn't like a Academy Award nominated film, but
Shotgun
it was
Wedding
fine.
was dope.
It was good.
Okay. You guys want to ask if J-Lo has Money Train ring a bell?
No.
Pretty good.
What?
Which one was that?
The one with Wesley Snipes and
Woody.
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
What was the train that Bad Bunny was on and everybody was killing
Bullet
each other?
Train.
Oh, Bullet Train. That's a great movie.
That was Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Also, she was also in Monster-in-Law. That was fun. Right? No? Okay. The Wedding Planner.
See what I'm
good.
saying about weddings?
The
with
Cell?
Monster-in-Law?
U-Turn. Out of Sight. None of these ring
Out
a
of
bell?
sight is
Out
good.
of Sight was with Clooney. Put it
Yeah.
on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places if you've gone sniffing around Affleck twice?
Geely?
That one was that one
was-
wasn't as bad as people
What?
said.
I thought she won like a Razzie for that.
Yeah, that one
That's
wasn't
an
as bad.
all-time awful movie,
No, just
Billy.
because people said that, I watched it. I was like, this is fine.
When you say to me worst movies of all time, I've never even seen it, but that's what I go to.
I know
Ishtar.
you gotta watch it because when you watch it, you're like, this isn't actually the worst movie of all time.
And if you don't want to watch it, you can always listen to Cinephobe, the podcast where Zach Harper and I watch movies that are poorly rated on Rotten Tomatoes. And we try to ascertain whether they're accurately poorly rated or maybe didn't get a fair shake. It's Cinephobe. It's produced by Anthony Mays. And we reviewed that movie, Geely, about probably 100, 200 episodes ago. So go ahead and look it up.
The start of that promo was really clean.
I know.
Kind of
That
petered
movie-
out at the end.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes, rambling.
Stugotz farted out of the side of his face the movie Ishtar, which is
It's a reflex
it,
reaction.
It
Dan.
is the original terrible movie with a giant budget.
I'm going to go to do my hard time, folks.
Yes.
She played Selena. Like that, she was critically acclaimed for that role.
But it is a movie that is viewed. That in Ishtar are the two. Doesn't she have another one? Jersey something?
Jersey Girl, maybe. Fly Girl. She was in Ice Age, Continental Drift.
Jersey Mike's.
That may be her best movie. I'm not really familiar with the J-Lo filmography or discography. I'm not going to lie. Like, J-Lo was never really my jam. I mostly consumed J-Lo through, like, the pop culture circus of her relationships, which, is like a little... It's fluff. Like, we don't really know these people. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what happened with her and Ben Affleck either time. They're not people that we've actually ever met.
She was in Ants.
Or Diddy, whose reputation has taken a hit recently because it's always interesting to see how it is that these
Should
people
she circle back
age.
there or
no?
Okay,
No, I
sure.
would. Yeah,
Just
let's
making sure.
not.
That seems
Just asking.
You've gone too far.
It seems like a
Exactly
bad
right.
idea. Yes, just a general bad idea.
A
there.
reclamation project. I think we can all agree on that, but I wouldn't go down that path.
Billy, did A-Rod also have his moment before COVID, and has that sort of declined since then?
You know, the problem with that relationship, and I'm just speaking for me personally and my feelings, I was very interested in the two of them together and couldn't give a darn about the two of them apart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
A
there,
lot of people feel that way.
well, he just made the argument on both what happened to them and why it is that we care about couples finding love, because you were also rooting for A-Rod to find love there.
Oh, she was in Parker.
Stugotz, you have heard me lament in the way that things have sped up in coverage of sports and just social media addictions in general. That we rarely appreciate historic greatness when we're sitting in the middle of it. Usually it's something you have to look back on, and then your arguments can never be wrong when you're arguing on behalf of Michael Jordan being the best ever, and he represents what I want represented as that part of the generation. Michael Jordan went over Karl Malone and Clyde Drexler and Charles Barkley and all of them. He ends up trampling everybody. And I want to know from Amin and you where you put this age against Michael Jordan, given that the three guys who were competing over this generation that we just enjoyed in the Olympics, because we all realized, oh, this is the end of something pretty special here with these three guys. You had three Jordans going against each other, and one of them had a more valuable shot than the others. Jordan didn't have to play against anybody who was making all the threes, who was shooting like Curry. He only had to do it against Reggie Miller.
Right.
The game's math changed, and then Durant joins Curry, and LeBron can't get to a couple of the championships from there. So, I mean, historically, how will we regard the three guys who end up elbowing out Melo and Dwayne Wade and Chris Paul, whereas the previous generation, Michael Jordan was there to vanquish all comers, but I don't know that Drexler was as good as Curry or Durant are.
Yeah, I don't think Drexler specifically is as good as those guys that you named, but I think people would name different names from that era. They would say, you know,
Charles Malone,
yeah,
Olajuwon,
Patrick Ewing,
yes,
Shaquille O'Neal. Like, those are the names of that era. Now, all of them are big guys because that was what the game was. The game was center-driven, big man-driven. And then if you think about it, like, shooting guard was kind of like the least glamorous position. And then, you know, Jordan kind of changed that. But, Dan, I mean, that's the hard part about comparing eras. That's why, like, I'm not a big fan of the LeBron or Jordan conversation, because there's so many variables that every one of these great players both benefited from and were penalized by.
I'm just asking you to put this group, these three unprecedented players having to play each other at the same time, put the generation in some sort of context before it ends here.
Are you talking LeBron, Curry, and Durant, those three
I'm
in
talking
particular?
about how wonderful a time it was in basketball to see these guys fight over a decade for all the titles.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not over yet. Like, all three of those guys are still really good, and they all three of their teams have aspirations of continuing.
It is
to
all
play.
over.
You think it's over?
It ended last year. I told you this last year, and you disagree with it. You believe in old guys forever. You believe in the old guy ability to summon something, and the young guys took the league last year. That one is obvious. Those three guys will not have a better chance than the ones they've already had.
I disagree on the grounds that it's not like those three guys came short. I think the supporting cast around them came short. They were not provided with all the tools necessary. So, by way of example, if you take Jason Tatum off the Celtics and you put Kevin Durant, you think the Celtics aren't as good?
But that's not what happened.
But that's
Kevin Durant joined Jason Tatum's Celtics to win the two titles that he won.
But my point
now
is,
you're talking.
My point is this, Dan. My point is, it's not that Durant and LeBron and Curry, like, their time is over. It's that the surrounding infrastructure around them has failed them at this point. And fail is a tough word because those guys have experienced a lot of success in their day. But I'm just saying, in the present time, the part that is stopping them from winning again isn't, oh, if only Curry was as good as he was a couple of years ago. Like, no, he's just as good as he was. It's, man, Jonathan Kuminga, not quite good enough, right? Klay Thompson, not quite as good as he once was. And so I'm not going to sit here and say it's over for any of those three guys because they're still playing at an extremely high level. It's just how do we get them the help and support they need?
I would say for LeBron, it's over. Like, LeBron has shifted his focus. I want to be there for my kid. I want to play with my kid. He's not chasing championships. If he wins one more in L.A., great. Curry, I still think he can win a championship. And Kevin Durant, oddly, has the best chance to tack on multiple championships to his resume.
Both of you,
if he lands in the right spot.
Both of you have upset me now because I'm trying to have a conversation with you about the last 10 years, and you want to have a conversation about the last 10 minutes.
Right.
I'm not interested in the end of their careers. I'm asking you both to put into context the fact that we have seen three all-time greats. Three all-time greats that don't have precedence as basketball players. None of the three. There's never been anyone who's existed like the three that we just watched. They fought for the championships for 10 years, and last year was oddly unsatisfying with the Celtics throttling everybody because they didn't have one of those three guys. They basically indoctrinated an era of fans into these are the three best. And good luck discussing and arguing who's fourth among them because these are three guys for all time. Now I'm asking you to put it in some sort of context because they beat each other, and one of them didn't just beat the other two every time the way that Jordan did.
I mean, the context is that this was a great generation, and it's a generation that's not over. But, yeah, like – I don't know what you're looking for in this argument, to be honest with you.
I will tell you the generation that had Jordan was the best generation. If you're trying to compare generations, don't do it. I care about
I'm not trying to compare generations. I'm trying to ask you guys whether it can properly be celebrated what it is that we just witnessed because we spent the 3 years criticizing Durant and LeBron. Steph's the only one who comes out of that unscathed. We spent the entire time questioning their greatness.
Well, Steph never chased titles. I told you when Durant started to chase titles, Dan, it was going to work against him. Okay, I did. I told you that the second he started doing it. Curry just stayed put. He stayed put with a team that was built through the draft mostly, and then they tacked on Kevin Durant. Like, Curry didn't go anywhere. And so I think Steph Curry is probably going to win like one more title. But I'm with Amin. I don't know what you want us to do with context. I mean,
like, what's the do you guys got anything for us here?
I just think it's
great.
No, but I think it's an era for all time is my point. It's the only one that pales. Your parents, okay, can tell you all about Wilt and Bill Russell, and no one can explain to you how it is that actually Bill Russell ended up dominating a player like Wilt, who was the better player, like in an obvious way. That time is so far in the past, it might as well be ancient fossilized nostalgia. We're living in a time for all time right now, and it's what you just felt during the Olympics. The fact that you sort of realized it while they're taking out the Wembanyamas and the Jokic's, who are now, as you argue on behalf of, they've still got time left. I mean, they've had the sport taken from them by who is regarded as the best in the world, and it's Jokic. It's by consensus. It's whether you like him or
and
not.
The Celtics.
But they've had the sport taken. Best player in the world title is not something we'd give Steph, Kevin, or Durant, or LeBron right now.
Right. In the words of Ricky Bobby's dad, oh, you could be second, you could be third. Like, okay, so they're not the best. You think so they're out of the top 10? They're out of the top 100? Like, they're still great. But
I said that about Affleck, and you guys told me that I couldn't have him in the top 20.
Affleck, but he never was. That's the difference. Affleck was never in the top 20.
I'll work on a list.
But Dan,
top 20.
You went back to Wilt and Bill Russell. Dude, in the 80s, we had Dr. J, Magic, Bird, Isaiah Thomas.
Preach.
And Moses Malone, and all these guys fought over the titles, and they won the titles, and they split, and they had to go through one another. So I don't think, this is unprecedented. We have a habit of, thinking what's happening to us right now is, the only time this has ever happened, right? I saw this stand-up comedian talking about, he said, people say, I don't want to bring a child into this world. What, a world with, medicine and air conditioning and things like that? Somehow it would be better to bring a child into the world 100 years ago? No, look, man, the reality is we're all going through a similar, not the same experience because there are different challenges and different benefits and rewards, but it is similar in that there's always going to be a bunch of other people that are dealing with the thing. What are we laughing at?
Oh, nothing. I mean, just keep going. You're rolling. You're sounding good. You're giving.
I was.
Some rights
You're
have
doing the
gone
generational
away.
context
And when everybody's
thing.
laughing,
We're
I kind of feel.
Right.
50 years ago.
What's that?
Some rights have gone away that we did have 50 years ago.
And some rights we
There was a better time.
Like there were things. Yes, there are things that we
Specifically
had.
ones that got taken away like
Summer
a
of
year
'84.
ago.
Oh, the LA games.
There was a time you used to be able to treat your quarterback like and you wouldn't go crying to the media.
Tony and I were doing like a top 5 gunslinger list back here, so that's kind of where the distraction has been, Dano. But I'm working on, so it's top 20 male actors of the 2000s. Is that where you're putting Ben Affleck?
I would put him in the top 20 of male movie stars. I would put him
Of the 90s?
of this millennium.
No, he only had like
So
like
2000 forward.
2000 forward.
Okay, I'll work on
He had
that.
some bangers in the early '90s, though.
No, not really. What in the early '90s?
Good Will Hunting.
98.
Mid '90s, my bad.
98 was good. That's the end of the 90s.
Yeah,
They were
well.
already on the way out. And by the way, that was like finally him and Matt Damon arrived, and then they started getting roles after that. Those roles didn't happen because people saw the movie in '98, like, oh, wow, let's cast them. So then they filmed in '99. 2000 was the first of those movies came out.
Thank you. I mean, what happened was that we were watching the Gardner Minshew video back here, Dan, and then we started thinking Gardner Minshew, gunslinger, right? And then we started thinking, who's another gunslinger? Let's get top 5 gunslingers going. So we got that list
Well,
for you.
thank you for doing that. And at any point you guys want to participate in the show we're doing over here, that'd be good too.
Just prepping for the next segment.
I hadn't gotten to Gardner Minshew yet.
I don't think anyone understood what you were trying to get to. That's
Is
the
it current
generational
gunslingers?
context. I don't know what you want.
Since the
I
2000s.
think
Past
since 2000 is what Tony cut off. Was that 2000?
Does Brett Favre's off-the-field antics remove him from the equation?
No,
That makes him more of a
putting,
gunslinger.
putting him in a vacuum, guys.
He's
No
a
off the field,
gunslinger.
anything.
What am I doing in this
Just on the
vacuum?
field.
We
My
don't
Chris
judge.
Cody bit.
Don't judge around here.
Why can't he be in the Gunslingers?
Not his list, my list.
I mean,
We'll see.
we're going to bring
boy.
politics into this? What do you? It makes him.
I
More,
try not to.
Amin's arguing, saying
Billy was just asking.
makes him more of a gunslinger.
Dude, if you're out here scamming people and showing your and stuff, that's kind of gunslinger attitude and behavior.
Wild Wild West.
Put that on the
He's right about that, by the way.
I'm just
He's
saying,
right.
gunslinger is not a positive, or it's just like a catch-all for all types of reckless behavior. Sometimes reckless behavior is positive, like throwing a dart down the field for a touchdown, like when your dad just passed away the
Sometimes
day
you're
before.
like, oh no, yeah.
I would think this list is specific to football, though, not just general gunslingers.
Again, hadn't gotten there yet. Don't know why you guys were doing your own private show back there about gunslingers.
Prepping for the next segment.
Yeah, but
Dana.
I wasn't going there yet.
But we have to prep. We have to be a step ahead.
Yeah,
back
step
here,
ahead.
Yeah. We're
Better be a
playing a
step
step
ahead.
We're
than
trying to
step
be where you're
behind.
going, not where you were.
Dan, you're a little bit of a gunslinger. I don't know if you know this. See, they've got to be prepared. They got to be
Yes.
organized. You're out here just throwing it like Curry, Steph, LeBron.
Well, here's something that's
Context.
happening around here, and now we're not going to Gardner Minshew. You can stuff
Oh
Gardner
wow,
Minshew.
look at you.
up your ass.
You got us.
Whoa.
Gunslinger.
You've just denied. All you've done is denied the audience. You haven't denied me anything.
But they really wanted to hear about Gardner
You know they
Minshew.
did,
Guys,
You know they did.
We drew up the play. Everyone's lined up. Dan hikes the ball, says, "You know what? Kid, I'm going that way."
Took it, put it under my arm, and walked right out of the stadium.
Nah, Dan's the one that Dan's in Mahomes. He tosses it behind his back. The play starts breaking down. He makes it happen. He makes these things work. Dan came a trabajar hoy, and we're getting in his way. So stop it right now. Dan, back to you.
Yeah, gunslinger talk. That's really what I want to do. Can't wait to do it. The thing that I
Wednesday.
wanted to ask you guys, because this
like a
is
Friday.
happening around here a lot, and I don't know what to do with it. You have a bunch of people in the other room who are clamoring and really want to do a fantasy show for the audience. And we are not good at doing fantasy shows. You can absolutely rig your clickbait by just this time of year doing fantasy garbage. People are snorting it. Everybody is trying to, they're basically trying to get up to speed on all things football a week before the season.
Mike Wright on God Bless Football this Friday. I mean,
Oh, nice.
fantasy footballers. Yeah.
Getting you ready.
And the video team wants to do something fantasy related. I don't know whether it's centered around Tony, and I am just I'm adamantly against us doing this as a cheap content play just to diddle the audience because of the fantasy that you guys love.
First off, let me speak for the video team, the fantasy audience. We could do a kick-ass show if we were allowed to do a kick-ass show. I think that's the most important thing. So if we had the go, we could make it happen.
The
and
green
then-
light.
Exactly. And then we could make it happen.
Tony, not to cut you off, but I'm gonna just say this right now. Maybe if you had a couple gunslingers, you'd do the show.
What is this? Okay.
There can only be one gunslinger.
You think that, oh no, there can always be multiple gunslingers. You think
Make it happen?
gunslingers wait for an okay? They just gunsling. That's what they do. Also, diddlers. Not the word I would
I'm not here to
use.
diddle the audience, by the way.
The fantasy stuff is
Diddling?
disgusting to me.
Now,
It's
I
disgusting
maintain,
how
Dan,
much you guys eat it up.
I maintain that if we started a fantasy show, and Tony's right, it needs to be a good fantasy show. We could turn anyone into a fantasy expert.
Well, no,
we can.
you can't.
No,
That's
I think
part
we
of the.
can. It's a guessing game.
No,
Billy.
I know
I
you
mean,
think we can. I think
right.
a lot of people think we can. I think that's the problem. We can't. You have to actually know what you're talking
No,
about.
I think there are people who work with us that know exactly what they're talking about and be very good at it. They just need people to set them up. That's
Like
all.
Tony.
When's the last time you checked Field Yates for whether he's right or wrong on this
No
stuff?
one ever
Good
does. That's
point.
my point.
Good
I'm
point.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the thing that I wanted to ask all of you, because you're all fascinated by this fantasy stuff, I want to play some sound for you here of, and I think Stugotz, you may not have noticed this because of how you both produce and consume content at this point. But whether it's Hassan Piker or people like Warren Sharp, there are a whole lot of people in the democracy of the podcast space who are aggressive, okay, type A personalities on how it is they're going to conquer everybody by having better and more information than others.
Yep.
And they found a way to, I don't know what Warren Sharp's past is, but a lot of people who didn't like their happiness in law, like Mike Florio or one of the original content monsters, they wanted another career. They found that the sports industry was ripe with both people who were cavemen and kind of lazy. And so they have more information and better information than most, but having that information doesn't necessarily result in you being able to predict results, because I'm going to play some sound for you here of Warren Sharp, who is excellent at football information. I honestly don't know what his past was, but I'm going to just give you a 2-minute breakdown of him talking about all Tua things. And this guy's preordained right to this as a career, Stugotz, is just that his information is really good and people trust that he's making value measurements on the NFL that have more data than most.
Tua's rookie season was 2020, second season was 2021, both of which were under Brian Flores. His rookie season and his second season, you know where the Dolphins offensive line ranked? Dead last. They were the worst in pass block win rate. They were the worst in PFF grades, the worst offensive line in the league. His receiving core those 2 years, you know where they ranked? Dead last in wide receiver separation. They could not get open. His number one receiver was Devontae Parker. We know his problems. His number two was a tight end, Mike Gesicki. Number three was Jalen Waddle, who he only had for one season. And number four was a running back, Myles Gaskin. An utter catastrophe of guys, mostly with limited skill and no ability to separate. They also ranked second to last in yards after the catch, obviously because they were not being able to get open. The receivers couldn't contribute it. The offense wasn't designed to give it, which brings me to coaching. His rookie season, the offense was designed by a formerly retired 64-year-old Chan Gailey. He comes out of retirement to design the offense for Ryan Fitzpatrick. It was COVID, and Tua's rehabbing this ridiculous hip injury that ended his college career. Fitzpatrick takes all the snaps during camp to get him ready for the season. Tua then is thrust into the offense midway through the season. If you remember, after the season, Chan Gailey comes out and says that he was totally shocked that Flores decided to throw Tua in there because he didn't have a preseason, he didn't get any reps, and it was a totally new offense for him. Gailey doesn't make many changes to the offense, forces Tua to play Ryan Fitzpatrick's offense, and obviously it's a disaster. Then you go to 2021. He's got co-offensive coordinators this season, so new set of coordinators, George Godsey and Eric Stugotz. These guys have no experience calling plays. It was very confusing who was going to do what. Brian Flores doesn't announce who's going to be doing what. His number one receiver misses 7 games. His receivers had the worst separation in the NFL. He's playing behind the worst offensive line in the NFL yet again. And his running backs ranked 30th in rushing efficiency. So he's got nothing on the ground. His receivers aren't helping. His offensive line is terrible. The play calling is not good. And despite all of that, he improves in nearly every single stable quarterback metric across the board. So you want to look at his overall stats and say, oh, Tua wasn't great his first 2 years in the NFL. Maybe you could say that if you want to. It's a bad argument to make considering everything else that went around him and what we have seen these last couple of years when he's been actually playing in a competent offense with decent play calling and a little bit better structure.
You chose that video over gunslinger talk? I mean, Jesus.
Knows what he's talking
Tighten
about,
it up.
correct?
I mean,
Guy was an engineer. How about you put your hand in the dirt?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, God.
You're
Minor penalty,
Kim
2 minutes,
Bokamp
rambling.
thinks.
Sharp. Yeah.
You said sharp.
I sent Sharp to the penalty box. It was rambling, but I will just say to you, all of it was set up for the following. Clearly knows what he's talking about, and when he came on with us, went 0 for 13 picking games and had to give people a subscription rate of $1 because he was so embarrassed, because all of the knowledge in the world doesn't actually help you predict the results in real or in fantasy. But you guys would be here to tell me I'm wrong, correct? That in fantasy you can have information that's better than all the people you're competing against.
Sure, you can, but I think fantasy is a lot about the vibes too, Dan. The show has to have vibes on it, right? It has to be fun. It has to be getting you ready for the week. It has to be like, all right, we're starting these guys, we're not starting these guys, but it's got to be fun. If it's just information driven, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, you got to give the people something.
Got to give the people what they want.
That's the problem, though. I think that most of what it is that you're seeing skyrocket up the charts this time of year in fantasy is not entertainment. It's all info. It's not.
They want the information.
It's not because
yes.
it's a wacky show. It's how do I beat this guy out of my $800 league because someone's giving secret information out there that I don't have. Everyone's hunting for gold right now.
It's not to say there's not a market for a different fun fantasy show. I'm certain that there is, but Dan is right. People who listen to that stuff, they want that information.
No, everybody is just hunting for. They want to be at their draft. They want to make a pick, and they want everyone to say, good pick. Good pick.
Well, yeah, of
and
course,
I need other people to tell me who those good picks are going to be. Who am I taking in the 7th round? Where's the value? I just want people to congratulate me. I don't actually care if I win in fantasy. I just want there's nothing worse than you go up to your board in the draft, you put your sticker there, and just silence.
Or one of these
There's
moves.
no bad. I'd rather be mocked for a bad pick
Yeah.
than just silence. That eerie. It's like the longest walk back to your table when you're at the draft, and there's just nothing said.
What is he doing?
Are you guys still doing physical in-person
I have a couple.
drafts?
Those are the best.
I never do that. No, I don't
The
like
online
doing
ones
that.
are faster, but I love a good. Let's all get together. Let's
the
talk
lights
shit.
are flowing.
Ah,
But I mean, they also live in the same place where they grew up, so they have bigger friend groups here. Like I don't have any friends here, so that wouldn't work for me.
Friendless.
Chris Cody, you are telling me that you'd prefer the echoing laughter of drafting River Craycraft than just silence when you go to
I'd
your
rather
board?
hear reach than just silence.
Can you guys tell me what you think of the Warren Sharp mustache?
Pornish.
In general, it's aggressive.
It's his signature look. I can't imagine Warren Sharp without the mustache.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Look, he's in the penalty box.
Yes, he's in the penalty box. 2 minutes for rambling. It was good condensed information, but Stugotz, I think.
Condense it more.
Exactly right.
Do you have? Well, he condensed 2 years into 2 minutes.
Well, you can talk fast enough to have people think what
Let's
you're
get it
talking
down
about.
to 60.
All right, so you don't think he knows what he's talking
I don't
about?
know.
Well, you're the Duke. You're ranked
I'm
fifth
not here to start problems
internationally.
with Warren Sharp. That's not what I'm doing here. I like Warren Sharp.
Put it on the poll. Does the Duke know more about football than Warren Sharp?
one said
Does the
that.
fifth internationally ranked fifth football insider?
It's 6.
Are you fourth now? What are you?
This is going to be awkward when we get to the football meetings and I see Warren Sharp, and now we're going to have to talk about this thing that Dan caused, this wedge between us.
Stugotz, do you have the book bag on you that the other day you pulled out one of these magazines you're still going through to get your fantasy,
I think so.
your fantasy secrets? Because do any of you still use any of the fantasy magazines in order to stock your team with ringers instead of listening to the 5 podcasts that have skyrocketed up the charts?
I actually have a bone to pick with Warren Sharp, if we're going to be honest.
Actual physical magazine.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I tried to get his Warren Sharp preseason book. He puts all this work into it, or whatever.
It's the Bible.
Did they call it the Sharp Picks or something like that?
I want a hard copy.
It's
I don't
called
want to
Warren. What is it good for?
I don't want to be scanning and scrolling through a PDF. I want to go like this, and I want to put my fingers through all the different pages. I want to leaf the pages. You know what I mean? I want to annotate things. I want stuff like that, but it's just a PDF from what I could find.
He used to have the regular book,
Yeah, I
but then
want a
obviously
hard
that
copy.
became more of a tax on him actually creating a business. So the PDF is way easier because he could just
Not
send
for
you
me.
500 pages instead of printing a book and then sending it to
Shipping
you
it.
and all that stuff.
And also, Billy, are you not a fan of Control F?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I
man.
like going through. I like feeling like I've accomplished something. If I'm going to read 15 words in a book, I want to, Go through 200 pages to get to those 15.
Are you reading the book or are you just looking at it?
I was intending on reading it, but now
there's a lot of information in those Warren Sharp NFL previews. Like there's a lot of graphs and numbers and data. There's like 6,000 pages.
Tell me who to pick. Right.
Stugotz is waving around now, and he's
Phil
holding.
Steele.
It's like seeing Donald Trump holding the Bible upside down. He doesn't totally know how to hold something that
350 plus pages, Dan. You want to touch it?
Something that needs to be read. He doesn't know how to hold it up.
I got my Aaron Schatz. God, I'm so confused reading that. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Oh, the almanac?
Yeah.
Does the Phil Steele tell you who the other 3 running backs were who won the Doak Walker Award 2 years in a row?
I didn't get to that.
I'm
page.
glad we got back to that
Eric
again today.
Mangini.
It went so well yesterday. Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. What should Warren Sharp's book be named? Warren, what's it good for? Or Sharp's Picks? Is that what you called it? Is Warren Sharp his real name?
No.
Sharp
no,
Sharp is a fake name, right?
Of course.
What is it Bill Sharp? What is
Larry.
His first name is that, but his
Sharp-
last name is not Sharp.
There's no way it's Sharp.
It can't be Sharp, right? Find out Warren's real name for me, please. I want more information.
Judge coach, sweetie.
Would you guys please do me the favor of getting me updated on the following that I am now being texted about and tweeted about? Somebody is accusing Stephen A. Smith of, well, that's interesting. Stephen A. Smith on First Take insinuating that Dan Le Batard and his show are in cahoots with the Dolphins and the NFL and Tua with that interview.
Inside job?
I don't know what the accusation is entirely.
Guys, I'm sorry. I got to come clean. I am actually an agent for Roger Goodell, and I've orchestrated all of this, everything, the building of Meadowlark Media, the studios, everything you've done here over the last 3 years, basically, since freedom, has been one massive conspiracy between the NFL and myself to entrap you, Dan Le Batard, and make you a tool of our oppression.
I'm grateful that you immediately jump into the mode of defending us against this with your sarcasm, but I'd like to know the nature of the accusation first. Jessica, what did you just take a giant bite out of there? It looked delicious, and it looked a bit carnivorous, and I think there was some cupcake involved. How much food did you just stick in your mouth?
Hold on, Jessica. It looked carnivorous. It was trying to eat Jessica back?
Yes.
You need to fill more time, Dan. She can't talk yet.
I made a mistake
Good.
just now. I forgot to eat breakfast during the break because Taylor had the Phil Steele book, so I started reading through the Phil Steele book, and then we started looking through the 247 rankings of 2028 recruiting class quarterbacks to see who was still in college. A number of players still in college, actually. So I was distracted by all of that, and then I was like, oh, my God, I forgot to eat my toast from this morning. So then I was like, well, I have to eat it now because I can't wait for another break. So I took a big bite of it just
It looked
now.
like icing, though, wasn't it? It was cream cheese of some sort?
It's
or?
avocado toast.
Okay.
It's just avocado.
Okay, I'm sorry. It looked both like dessert and meat, and it looked like a great deal of
I'm not going to eat
delicious.
meat until Sunday. I'm saving my meat appetite for the barbecue contest.
Yes.
Make sure that I'm ready,
to go to Key West
ready
with
for
Roy.
Mr. Meat
The
Master.
fishing tournament / barbecue /
All-purpose charity event that
Yeah.
Roy and Jessica are doing on the
Details.
I think
southernmost
Roy called
point
it a
of the world.
mishmash of random charitable.
Yes,
Which is
they did
crazy.
an excellent job of not promoting it well. They were exceptional at that.
So it means a spy?
That's what he is claiming, but I'd like to get back to the previous detailed reporting of what is Stephen A. Smith actually accusing me of. Can you guys get some actual information as opposed to, just riffing here?
It seems like he's saying that, the Dolphins wanted you to ask Tua that question. You asked the question so Tua could give that response. He wanted to get it out there.
You're basing this on
I'm
no
not basing it on
information that
anything.
you've
Yes,
got either.
right,
Okay, very
yes.
good. So you and Amin
I
not
didn't
giving
do
me.
it. Stephen A. did.
I know, but I don't know what he did. And before you guys go straight into reaction mode, can you
Right.
please tell me what he did? We will get to your reactions in a moment. Get yourselves informed before you give the reaction.
If that is what he did, though, did the Dolphins tell you to ask that question?
Yes, obviously.
Oh.
The thing that I wanted to get to with all of you from the last segment is we've done some research, some journalism groundbreaking, and Warren Sharp's real name is Tyler Brickner.
No.
Doesn't work.
Brickner. Tyler Brickner.
That's a fine.
He missed the opportunity to go by the brick.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
If he was a hoops guy, that would have worked, though.
But JT already had it. I mean,
No, if you go hoops and you go by the nickname the Brick, you're just Russell Westbrook. You don't want to be the Brick.
Shout out to JT. The
JT, man.
JT the Brick is a legend.
He really is.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show, Juju. Is JT the Brick a legend.
It's a Radio Hall of Fame, isn't
Absolute
it?
legends.
No doubt, man.
Well, let me go back for just a second here, okay? Because I'm telling you that I know Warren Sharp does know what he's talking about, and I also admire, I really do, that in the age of content creation and democracy, that some people hustle their way into the zeitgeist by just having better information when they're eating at the same trough that everyone else is trying to eat at, and the hunger is obvious in their work.
Take the mustache away, though. He's got nothing. I mean, it's a big part of his
fair.
game.
Whole bit.
I mean,
That's his whole bit.
Well, he does have good information. Again, it's not just the mustache.
No, but you know.
It's helping, certainly. Not going to dispute it. But the thing that I wanted to ask you guys, because Stugotz really does believe that everyone can lazy their way into it the way that he did. And so he believes he can create a Warren Sharp out of just magic and God bless football. That he and Billy can find their... What do you mean no, Billy?
No.
What do you
This is-
mean no?
No, this is a situation where we had a talk, and I said, hey, let's try to be on the same page this season if we can, so that, you know, everything runs as smoothly as possible. Like, keep me up to date on some of these things, you know, this and that. Just like, let's make this smooth. Let's make this football season fun. Let's be, you know, hand in hand here, me, you. Let's like talk to the
Unlikely,
people that help
all
with
very
the guest
unlikely.
bookers, so we
He's
don't
an
have surprise
untethered
guests.
balloon that's always
Yeah.
deflating. You will have no control over him. You'll be tired by week 3.
Well, I'm already
Did
there.
Jessica just spit a bunch of avocado into a cup?
It was a radish.
That was a radish, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, lo and behold, I walk in and I find out Stugotz is pitching new fantasy shows, which I've not been made aware of. And with new shows come promises of where they're going to air and such. And I find these things out on air, and I say, please, let's not continue. He says, okay, we won't.
Right.
And apparently this has been going on today. If you overheard this somewhere in another room,
Well,
I don't know what's
Stugotz
going
thinks
on.
he can
Still
invent.
negotiating.
Stugotz believes he can create out of Chris Cody's law office or his mother's law office that he can create a character that dominates the fantasy space by just going on God Bless Football all the time and siphoning audience.
This is all I'm saying, and it's all I've ever said as it relates to fantasy, okay? I have a friend, his name is Inferno. He's a ringer. I hired him to run my baseball team. He is going up against people who do this for a living. Jamie Eisenberg at CBS Sports. He beats them every single year. He has the information. He's doing the research. He has no interest in talking into a microphone, but I could take somebody else. There are countless people like Inferno out there roaming the earth that don't have a platform that know more about fantasy sports than the guys actually talking about fantasy sports. I'm going to find one.
And you think it just so happens to be Chris and Tony?
Well, no. I think Chris may know someone. Tony might know someone. I know a few people that know a lot more than some of the people I'm hearing out there. That's all. Give him a chance. Give him a platform.
Stugotz, I don't believe that there are a great many people who know a lot more than Matthew Berry. Like, his whole game is...
Dan, how hard is it to do this? Listen, don't take a quarterback first 5 rounds. You know, the gap between the best quarterback and the worst quarterback, it's not that big of a gap. That's why you don't take one to the 5th or 6th round. But the gap between the best running back and the worst running back, a lot smaller. That's why you take them in the first round. Boom, information, fantasy guy.
Matthew Berry joining us next week.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's awesome, man. Matthew Berry.
He's great.
He's
Yes.
you know what, Dan? Earlier you played.
Have you heard his Jay-Z story?
I have, because he's in the same.
You're gonna hear it again Monday.
You were talking about Warren Sharp, and it's like, oh, this is what fantasy, fantasy content is like. I would argue that Matthew Berry finds a way to make it fun, and funny and engaging.
His studio had puppets. We got in trouble for using that studio.
Dude, that studio, that show is awesome. Wait, what?
Yeah.
We tried to use this.
The puppets?
Yeah, because we went up and we did a little stint in Bristol when Dan was on his honeymoon. And what happened was this was at the peak of Music Dome and The Masked Singer, and I was really pushing to do a Music Dome from the Sports Center set, and they did not like that idea at all. And the consolation ended up being, you can do it in Matthew Berry's studio, but don't tell anyone. And we did do it in Matthew Berry's studio. And what I heard was the line that we crossed was when we started playing with the puppets. Like, it was fine to be doing it in the studio. We were pushing all the little levers and everything. Things were flying down. We were really exploring the space, updating everybody on what happened on The Masked Singer. And then once we touched the puppet, that's when we really got in trouble and we had a talking to.
Alarms went off in the life of Matthew Berry as soon as any of the puppets are touched.
Wait, where'd you touch him?
What?
All right, let's see what we've got here. Let's see
Just
here.
anything will do.
Careful, he's a spy.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes, asshole.
Didn't Stugotz also try and fail to get? Go ahead. Thank you. Get out of here. Excellent timing. You've been impeccable today. Yeah, my fault. It was my fault on the timing. Let's talk about how you failed already to get Matthew Cherry off the ground on God Bless Football because you wanted an alternative to Matthew Berry, and that fantasy expert didn't actually become anything yet.
Well, as before we thought we could get Matthew Berry on the show. Then he got on the show and we kind of punted on the idea. Well, Matthew Cherry, guys, spoiler alert, if you are catching up from seasons 1 through 3 of God Bless Football on your podcast, you may want to change the channel right now because about week 4, season 2 of God Bless Football, we introduced Matthew Cherry, which is actually Greg Cody giving fantasy advice. But
Good idea. Wrong guy.
Yeah, no, it could have worked, but then we also didn't realize there was an actual Matthew Cherry that played football, and we caused a lot of confusion that week as well. And then Greg was busy, I believe, the following week, and then that idea just went away. Yeah.
That happens with God Bless Football. Billy, do you feel like you're on the same page enough? I've been hearing from Stugotz for several months, this guy in Chris's office, I'm going to make him a fantasy star. This is not weeks old. He's been talking about it all summer.
This is the first I hear of this. Someone in someone's office?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Just your regular average Joe, Billy. I'm telling you, first off, I am certain, because I trust Chris, that this person, he's like Inferno, okay? Knows more about fantasy than the people talking about him. Secondly, these people who do the research, who put in the time, they just need a platform. I'm going to give this person that platform. That's all. It doesn't have to be a God Bless Football thing. It could be his own entity. I don't care.
You're just charitable work. You just want to give this guy a platform,
Billy,
get him off the ground.
No, hold on. What we're trying to do
course,
here
yes.
with me, Stugotz, and Chris is basically almost like an American Idol, but for fantasy. Right? We're going to give people the platform. Hey, you're a great singer. Prove it to America.
Correct.
You're a great fantasy football expert.
Yes.
Prove it to America. And then we're going to give them the platform. If they suck, we boot them. We get somebody else.
And we're going to fact check all the guys who are doing it. Because no one else is, you know?
You're going to fact check all the guys
Well,
doing
someone on our staff is, but I mean, it's not going to be me. But we are going to check the Field Yateses, the Matthew Berrys.
You're just going to talk about doing things you don't actually do for months.
Can you ever
Listen,
just
I lay
sit
it out
down
there,
and
man.
just take a breath?
I have a tough time sitting down. I got to be honest.
I've noticed.
Yeah. I like to pace, man. I do.
You're a busy man, but it's like you cause these own
I'm
problems
busy doing
for yourself.
nothing. Yeah.
No.
Good luck this season with God Bless Football, Billy. You're going to be made crazy. Can we give the people the stat of the day music, please? We've got competing stats of the day here between me and Stugotz.
This year's start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. This year's start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. This year's start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. This year's start of the day.
Is yours inside of sports or outside of sports, your stat of the day?
Inside of sports, I think.
Well, you would know. You'd be the only one who would know.
Some of it's inside, some of it's outside. 50-50.
Let's see what we've got.
All right. Courtesy of @RDMancini on Twitter. Sister Jean was 12 years old when Thomas Edison died. Beat that!
Is that a better stat that in Finland there are more saunas than cars?
Oh, wow.
It's hard to believe.
Which is the better stat? Put it on the poll, please, @LeBatard Show. Did you know that in Finland there are more saunas than cars?
Weirdly, they do both naked. It's a weird thing about Finland.
Let's do a little bit of housekeeping here because for some reason our information and internet work so slowly that while we're in the show yesterday and I have confirmation on my newsfeed that Subway is indeed struggling as a franchise, we leave for the day without anyone being able to verify that on the entirety of the internet. It turns out that there are an alarming number of franchises closing, and there was an emergency meeting that Subway is saying is not an emergency meeting last week because of the number of franchises that are closing at an alarming rate.
That was according to the New York Post, though.
I would have told you that off the top of my head. I've seen nobody at a Subway in 3 years.
Listen, nothing.
As long as you get us Caleb Williams Radio Row Week, we're fine.
Also, housekeeping on this. Do we have 20 actors better or more famous movie acting men than Ben Affleck this century? Were you able to find 20 of them?
I found like 50. I don't know if you want me to.
Wow.
I mean, I found a lot. Like, I think if you win an Academy Award for Best Male Actor, you're automatically on the list, right?
Yes.
In the last 24 years.
So you guys would argue, because I'd argue that Paul Giamatti doesn't get to be as famous an actor as Ben Affleck by virtue of Ben Affleck's dating resume, which doesn't have anything to do. It just has to do with fame.
Famous and better, different though.
Well, this is where it gets a little dicey, because if you just want to go by movie stars, not television and film stars, then the list gets a little bit more narrow. Like someone like Bryan Cranston probably isn't on it, although he has been in a bigger cultural event acting.
And he's been
Ben
nominated
Affleck.
for an Academy Award.
He has, but he hasn't won one.
Well, was Batman not a cultural event when Ben Affleck played Batman?
For all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It was ass.
Because it was an ass Batman. Okay.
So Ben Affleck, The Town, Argo, Gone Girl, and
That's a good run, man.
Air.
Those are bangers.
Probably his best 4 films of
After Good Will Hunting.
2000 onward.
Can I
The odds.
Can I make a pushback on one thing?
Yes.
Argo, he's more known as being the director than his acting job that he did.
That's
in
fair.
Correct,
I think that they're also adding some nuance there.
That was Oscar nominated, was it
It
not?
was.
The movie was.
Actually,
He
I
wasn't.
might have- did it win an Oscar?
Argo?
Argo, yourself.
Exactly.
There's a moment where the Iranian
movie,
people, the police are trying to get him, and he's about to walk in. Like, that's a tense moment right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you have someone like Daniel Day-Lewis, who I feel like he retired from acting.
Yeah.
To become a cobbler for a while.
Fewer than 10 years ago, but he has to be on this list because he is one of our greatest actors of all time, even though he may have fewer recognizable titles just in the last,
You know what,
20 years than
Jessica?
Ben
I of course, Daniel Day-Lewis is a better actor, a better thespian. He's not a bigger movie star than Ben Affleck.
I think he is. I think if he announced he was going to be in a movie that comes out next year, I think that would be a pretty big effing deal, versus if Ben Affleck did, it would be a medium effing deal.
And you know how we know it'd be a medium effing deal? Because he was in a movie with Jennifer Lopez that nobody saw.
Wait, is this?
He was.
What is this list? Best actors or most famous actors?
That's what we're talking about right now.
He said the biggest.
I think
I
the
said
best,
biggest movie
20
stars.
best movie
The
stars.
Rock, Vin Diesel. I mean, Ben Affleck's not even going to sniff this list. Get the hell out of here.
Vin Diesel's real name? Mark Sinclair.
Yeah.
Well, Billy, I think you're proving my point now. It's that there's a lot.
Mark Wahlberg.
A lot of actors on this list. Mark Wahlberg actually wasn't on my list, but I had Denzel Washington, Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Paul Giamatti with an asterisk, maybe. So maybe he's OLI. Matthew McConaughey, Matt Damon, Tom Hanks, Sam Jackson.
Is
Joaquin
McConaughey
Phoenix.
a big? I think of Affleck as
He won
being
an Academy Award. He won an Academy Award.
Not only has he won an Academy
Dallas
Award,
Buyers Club.
but he's wildly popular.
Okay,
he's
but
a
I think of them
movie
as
star.
similar names, though. I
He's
think
on
of them.
College Game Day.
But if I were to say to you, if I were to say to you, who's more famous, McConaughey or Affleck? Like it's
We're
push.
not doing who's more famous,
Yeah,
though.
what are we
That
doing?
was.
But that's what movie stardom is.
Figure out what
Rowan
list you want,
Atkinson.
man.
That's not the only criteria. That's why I was trying to explain the criteria before I started
Chris
giving
Pratt.
the list.
Oh, forgot about
All the
That's another good
Hemsworths.
one.
We'll
Scott
get back.
Pilgrim.
We'll get back to your list in a second.
Do you know the list that you want? Because I know the one I want, and it's Gunslingers. I mean,
Yeah, top 5 gunslingers is still out there.
Not going to do that. Thank you, though.
well,
I
we were
really
cleaning up.
appreciate it.
Try,
I appreciate that you guys wanted to get it back to Gunslingers, but not right now, not on my watch.
Tony thinks Aaron Rodgers is a gunslinger.
Whoa.
He absolutely is a gunslinger guy. Sorry to tell you.
You got to
Dan?
throw more interceptions than that if you're going to be a gunslinger.
look
a
who's
A
engaged.
gunslinger.
I knew I could get Dan
It's
in.
got to be more than 5 interceptions a season.
Well,
if
hold
you
on a
wanna be
second. If he's reckless this year, is it a regression or is it he's a gunslinger? Can you regress
He's just
into
old.
being a gunslinger?
No, he's just an old. He's an old guy who the gun doesn't work the same in the holster as it used to.
I don't know.
He's not as quick on the draw as he used to be.
Good argument by Tony, though.
You can't argue that.
I mean, we don't want to get to the list. Dan just was.
I don't want to get
He
to
doesn't
the
want to
list.
get to it because I would have more to say if we didn't want to get to it. So if I say I don't know,
I don't want to
he
get
can
to
move
the
his
list.
We
next
won't get
because-
to it, but if we did, who might be on?
You know why I don't want to get to the list? Because I'd prefer to get to Tony's top 5 NFL games, regular season games he's keeping an eye on.
Oh, wow.
Possibly a better list, by the way. I'm not going to say it's 100% a better list, but it's possibly a better list.
But gunslingers after that?
Nope, no thank you. Number 5, Tony.
Well, we have 8 OLIs, Dan.
Oh, for the love of God.
8.
Number 1 OLI, Rodgers going back to San Francisco.
Like it.
Bay Area kid going back to San Francisco. Early one. That's Monday Night Football, 9-4. September 4th, Monday
That's
Night
week 1?
9-9, excuse me. Yeah, week 1.
Yeah, week 1.
Very
So
exciting.
He'll probably be there.
I am not doing this for 13 of these. Speed it up.
Okay.
Could have went gunslingers. I mean,
Kansas City at San Francisco. Chris? Hey.
Like it.
Texans versus Cowboys on Monday Night Football.
Circle.
Battle for the Lone Star State. Chiefs versus Bills.
A lot of Chiefs games.
Bengals versus Chiefs.
The Chiefs' whole schedule.
Whole schedule for the Chiefs.
49ers Dolphins.
Oh, wow.
Big one.
Big one.
One that's under the radar because people don't think about the Eagles as highly as they have the last couple of years. Eagles Bengals.
Nice one.
Number 1 OLI. Falcons Vikings. Kirk Cousins going back to Minnesota. It's OLI. It's a big game.
What week is it?
That's week 14.
They cheer for him, right? They cheer for Kirk. They
Week
do.
14. They might be. Both teams might be
Week
fighting
6,
for a
that's
wild card
okay.
spot.
Come on.
Both teams might be fighting for a wild card spot. It was a big game.
Neither one of them will be.
It's
Get
your
out of
list,
here.
Tom.
Thank you. Number 5.
If Darnold has a season, though.
Oh, forget
Well,
it.
me and Stugotz were talking about a possibility for the Vikings. What if they trade for the back of whoever's not starting,
Wilson or Fields.
Wilson or Fields?
Yeah.
Well, what if Penix is the quarterback?
Oh, Cousins goes back. Wow.
Oh, wow.
As a backup?
Back to Mini.
Number 5.
Number 5. Bears Texans. C.J. Stroud, the next young quarterback. Caleb Williams, coming in as the crowned amazing next quarterback.
Yeah.
That one's going to be fun.
Yes, he is the crowned amazing.
What
next
week is
quarterback.
that?
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Number 4. Game 1. Jordan Love versus Hurts. Philly versus Green Bay. Game 1 in Brazil.
Brazil.
Number 3.
Huge game.
Game 2.
That's not game 1. That's
Friday
game
night.
Okay, game
Number
2.
3.
Whatever. Number 3. The Harbaugh Bowl.
Number 2.
11:25. Jim versus John in a classic.
Couple of Harbaughs cutting it out.
Number
3 days
2.
before Thanksgiving. Number
We're gonna have
2.
lots to talk about that
NFC Championship game rematch. Lions
Number 1.
versus
Number
49ers
1.
measuring stick game. Number 1. AFC Championship game rematch. First game of the year. MVP versus the Super Bowl MVP.
Excellent.
Games to watch. I'm just keeping an eye on them, Dan. All
Thank
of them.
you, Tony. I appreciate it. 13 games you're keeping an eye on. Stugotz is
Long
ready
season.
for God Bless Football. It's about to be a poor, long season for Billy Gill. Are you guys, any of you, bothered by the fact that NFL Films has embargoed the audio from Travis Kelce bumping into Andy Reid? And there's audio out there somewhere that would tell you exactly what it is that Travis Kelce said. The Travis Kelce economy is a substantive one. You might not like how he talks to his coach. Now he's that he's a lot more famous and powerful than his coach. And are you surprised at all that it's been embargoed and no one's heard that sound?
I can tell you exactly what he said. Give me the effing ball.
Right.
Pretty easy.
And he was right.
If only we had an inside man in the NFL that could get us that sound.
If only we had somebody that could get on the inside.
Forgot the bit.
If only we had an
Little
inside
inside job.
man.
Just
Yes.
stopped listening
That
to the
worked for the
show.
NFL.
Tired.
I mean, it's done
Tired.
so well
I'm
today.
gonna tell you exactly. You want to pull back the curtain because you said Travis Kelce.
You laid it up.
And I talked to you about a Travis Kelce topic in the break, so I was like, let me get my Travis Kelce
Just
stuff.
get out
Yeah.
of here. Just get out of here. Just get out of here again.
5 minutes.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes, asshole.
Hey, asshole was a little harsh. I mean,
Also, NFL Films, completely different division. I don't know anything that goes on over there.
You'd also have to be
I'm
a double
Roger.
agent to spy on the NFL to us, and you're not.
I'm not.
You
I
don't want to
I
be
don't
disavowed.
snitch.
single agent.
Yeah.
What have we found out in housekeeping
single.
on Stephen A. Smith and what it is that he alleged on First Take, please?
Look at Tua. I don't think it's an accident that Tua said what he said when he said it. I don't think it's an accident that Dan Le Batard asked him when he asked him. Dan Le Batard does his show in Miami. Dan Le Batard lives in Miami. Dan Le Batard in Miami all day, every day, all the time. And now is when you ask that question? There ain't no damn accident. I'm saying to you Brian Flores, you see through all of that because he's a smart man. You see through all of that. I don't think it's an accident that it happened. And I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm speculating. Openly admit that. I'm just watching it because as a scribe, as a reporter, long before I became a pundit, I've been in this business for 30 years now. I've seen it. And I know most of the time, again, you connect dots. And if you're Miami and you're the NFL, even though Molly is absolutely right, both things can be true. When you got a case pending against you, you're looking for an advantage. Tua provided it. Brian Flores didn't knock it down. I'm saying that's the reality.
Yeah.
What comes of it, I have no idea. But that is the reality.
He's on to us.
So you're doing their legal bidding now, too, Dan.
Well, what I really appreciate is the amount of credit that he's giving us as masterminds when he says it's not a coincidence on the timing. And he's right about this. Should have been a week earlier if Meadowlark Media acted very quickly. And instead, it got out like 5 days after we did it because we got it out when we got it out because everybody was rushing back to the facility to cut tape.
We sat on that for a while. You're right. Wasn't that a follow-up question, by the way?
It was the last question that
yeah,
I was
but he had
asking.
said something. I was there with you. He said something earlier, and you brought it back, and I was proud of you because you had to bring it back because Tua was talking about the differences between, being positive every day.
It is not strategically placed timing. We got it out with Chris Cody in shorts. There was nothing strategic.
This was all part of my plan.
Or in
all right?
cahoots.
As soon as I took over, I was like, all right, we're going to do this a week before the season starts. We got this.
We did. We planned with the Dolphins, with Goodell. We called him personally. Listen, Chris Cody's going to sit in shorts right next to him in the middle, and then we're going to release it 5 days later.
He let his guard down. I mean, Chris clearly made him comfortable. Why are you playing with the string?
I don't know why they have this still
That's
shot.
a strange still.
It's just unnecessary.
I watched
do
the
it
video
too.
so good.
I don't know what to do with the strings sometimes. Like,
look
does it look
pregnant.
sloppy if they're not tied?
Are you?
But then if they are tied, you have to untie them every time you go pee-pee.
I hate all of this. Take this off the screen.
Dan, I was
no good bad publicity.
That's
you
the
know
way.
what I mean.
Exactly.
Right.
Dan, I
Shoe
was
thing.
watching this video on
Zion.
YouTube and I was like, man, they did my boy dirty, putting him in the middle.
They did.
And then having him like kind of stare in between cameras. It looked like he wasn't paying attention for a while.
no.
And then he would just look at the camera and I was like, oh.
It's because I assume
What are you
when
looking at me
Tua's like going, they're just on Tua. I don't assume they're gonna cut to the 3 shot of me awkwardly sitting there.
Looking at me.
Of you playing with the strings on your shorts on the outside as if it were a bathing suit.
You got to know not to go to Chris there, though.
I enjoy the idea that somebody would think that Chris Cody in the middle seat of a couch is a mastermind strategic strike of an NFL lawsuit on racism. I appreciate getting that much credit for Chris Cody's executive producing.
Where do you go from here, Dan? Is this like a thing where you text Stephen A and you're like, hey, that's not true? Or do you just, what do you do? Aren't you guys friends?
It makes us seem way cooler than we actually are.
Yeah.
Let's just
I
let
wouldn't
this
call
live.
that cool. It would be pretty
We're
shitty.
involved with like the NFL and
An
like, this
inside
is-
job is not cool. We're in cahoots.
I mean,
Are you kidding me?
an inside job to discredit a guy accusing the league of racism? Yeah, that wouldn't be very cool, Stugotz.
Jessica, do you remember when Roger Goodell walked up to Juju in Germany and dapped him up? And everyone was like, how does Juju know Roger Goodell? You're welcome, Juju.
I just got in my headset. They're saying we should re-release the 2 interview with just the shot of me the entire time.
Oh,
That's a
That
great
shot,
idea.
You all can go bleep yourself.
Yes,
A one shot.
please. Do we have
Please no.
like
The
the
second
ISO
angle.
footage of just Cody? We could do the Chris Cody cut.
I like that idea. I also have been asking for a remix of all the words he stumbled on nervously during all of the Dolphin interviews. I want it to be a musical cut. Also in cahoots with the NFL, Tua, his people, and Goodell on that as well.
He's just a man, Dan.
He is.
But
But a man.
if he's playing with his strings the entire time,
Not the whole
we
time.
we should be able to see that.
Yeah.
Did you use him like a guitar? Like,
I don't know what I was doing. I was uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm in the middle. Why am I in the middle? Stugotz should be in the middle, and they're like, oh, he'll look so small there. You should be. How'd it work out?
Didn't you
They're
ask
big.
him to air guitar at one point?
Well, that was
You
just.
should have handed him one of your strings.
That's just a couple guys talking guitars. I mean,
Right,
when you
of
talk
course.
guitars, you talk air guitar.
Before we go any further here in the show, I did want to stop for a second to congratulate somebody I've admired in this business for a long time.
Oh, thanks,
And,
Dan.
it is most certainly not you. I mean, what I have seen Ariel Helwani do emerge from that sewer with credibility when that carnival barking skinhead is trying to always take away his power and doesn't care at all for journalism. To see Ariel Helwani come out of all of that with more credibility than any of the participants, and now start his own vertical with Yahoo because he's realized, like a bunch of people have realized, that you can start your own thing and bring all of your people with you. Like, I could not have more admiration for what that beast has done with his platform, because he really created something out of nothing. The sport in general climbed from the sewer to become a credible thing that people embrace, and Ariel Helwani is the most credible journalist in the entirety of the sport's history and continues to grow. And the way that he did it, people cannot possibly understand the degree of difficulty when you've got the most powerful man in the organization actively trying to chase you out of places, but your information and your credibility is too good, because Dana White doesn't have any respect for the idea that his information can be journalistically covered. He wants to control all of the power in that situation. So he has been unspeakably foul to Helwani over the years, trying to derail his career, and has failed to do it. Against his wishes, something emerged from all of that garbage to be more credible than all of that garbage. And I just couldn't be happier for him as somebody who created his own thing and continues to dominate what is a really democratic space now, and gets to go out on his own and build his own empire with Yahoo funding his entire empire of people, because he's going to make jobs for other people.
When you talk about Ariel, he's a pillar of the MMA community. I think 1A when you talk about journalistically for the MMA community, like, it's him, right? And for him to do all things as a personal friend, I've worked with him when I was at ESPN. I was one of the producers there when he first originally got to ESPN. So for him to work at ESPN with Spotify, with Vox, with all these different places that he's done, and now create his own thing. I know he's circled off a lot of different boxes, checked off a lot of different boxes career-wise. He's just an amazing dude.
That's right, it's time for Against the Spread! And it is sponsored by our lovers at DraftKings. Stay tuned, because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Chris,
Tony, what do you got?
before we go on, who's 1B?
1B, I would probably say the boys at Morning Combat. Here as part of the All the Smoke.
I thought you were going to say Tony was.
No,
I'm
not there yet.
Hangout
MMA Hangout is soaring right now. You can go check out. Yeah, it is soaring right now. But let's get to
Gunslingers.
Thank you.
One can hope.
We'll get there. We've got NFL action tomorrow, preseason. Was it week 3 of the preseason already? We're right there. We're on the doorstep, boys. Cincinnati Bengals, Jake Browning and them boys. Okay, at home against the Colts. Cincinnati Bengals plus 6.5-point dogs. I'm going to take them at home. It's going to be a closer game. I think there's going to be a lot of backups playing. I think Jake Browning and them boys.
Preseason football is dangerous to bet
It is.
on.
It's very dangerous. That's why I'm going to go with the points. That's why I'm going with the points here. Against the spread. Jake Browning and them boys.
Billy, who you got?
I'm going to take Georgia Tech plus 5.5.
Yeah!
Kickoff. This is their first of 2 Week 1 games, as Greg Cody reported last week for Florida State. I feel like Georgia Tech's going to have the upper hand on this one. I don't know if they're going to win. There's a lot of turnover there at Florida State. 10.5 points is a big spread. I'm going to take Georgia Tech plus 10.5 against the spread.
We're going to shock the world, Billy.
Amin, alma mater for Amin, Georgia Tech. He has not been this
Ramblin' Wreck.
He has not been this proudly a wreck since they beat the University of Miami, which refused to kneel in victory formation.
Oh, yes, Dan. I'm still working on those sideline passes for homecoming.
Can we get, please, before we go any further, into some of the music choices that Kirk Cousins is making? You thought I was going to go gunslingers there?
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
I am not. I am not going. I have not promised. I am not going to gunslingers.
Back the tape,
nope, I will not do gunslingers today.
I mean.
Yes, not that one though. Not interested in doing that one. How do we feel about the playlist here of Kirk Cousins, the practice playlist? Because Jessica was saying that she would buy the playlist from the DNC last night.
I wouldn't buy it, but I would download it on Apple Music and listen to it, perhaps. There's some bangers in there.
For the audio audience that isn't able to see the list of songs that Kirk Cousins played at practice, I will just play. I'm looking at Mr. Brightside by The Killers, All the Small Things by Blink-182. What else we got here? We got
Any OAR?
Let me help you here. Okay.
Now, Chris, to further solidify what you just said and Dan, what you just played, AtlantaFalcons.com actually wrote up about on their site, the official Atlanta Falcons site, about this playlist, and in it they quoted internet reaction to it, and the first tweet they have is from Jeremy Chandler Taché. Oh no, I am Kirk Cousins,
Fallout Boy.
Kryptonite by Three Doors Down.
I love that, though.
I remember they used to play the promo for on NBC for Kings versus Lakers, and Shaq is like, what's his kryptonite? It's the Kings. And they played that song. That was the first time I ever heard that song. Goosebumps.
Oh, man. Maroon 5. This love has taken its toll.
For practice? This is a practice playlist?
It's like... This is a Kendall Tool Peloton ride if I've ever seen one.
Stacy's mom is a banger.
She's got it going on.
These are all really old songs.
This is like 2006,
Yeah.
like Billboard Top 100
It's
songs.
not even recent Fall Out Boy. It's Sugar We're Going Down. That's like their second album.
The anthem, Good Charlotte. Oh, classic.
Mr. Brightside.
I can't believe you neglected to mention Stereo Hearts by Gym Class Heroes. My heart's a stereo. It beats for you and I'm
They should have done this. They should have done this the way Roy does Roy's top 10. And like there should have been one just like
shocking number one.
You guys ever think the Gym Class Heroes guy looked like
NWA.
Joakim Noah?
NWA.
Speaking of playlists, all right, I'll give you your gunslinger open.
Oh, wow! He promised he delivered. I mean,
Let's just see, though, for all of you who were thinking, how does Gardner Minshew work out? Does he work out to Creed? Of course he works out to Creed. Does he work out shirtless? Of course he does. Is he wearing a carpet made out of chest hair on his torso? Yes. Should he play an NFL game holding a Miller Lite and shirtless and with a hairy torso? Let's see Gardner Minshew working out to Creed.
he's just shirtless in a field.
My God.
Sweaty.
Now he's in a gym.
All of the
shirtless.
chest hair is matted and wet from the amount of work that he's doing. It is maximum mullet.
I like how the T-shirt is just there in principle. The sleeves are ripped off. The midriff is ripped off. It's just tatters on him. But it serves the purpose of no shirt, no shoes, no service.
Surprised there was no Creed on Kirk Cousins' list.
That is a bit of a
Tony, I
surprise.
do have a question for you about the gunslinger list. So
Okay.
we define gunslinger as deep ball threat, right? Like they're chucking it up far.
Big arm.
To me, a
Risky
lot of
passes,
interceptions. Doesn't
big
care about
arm.
interceptions.
They take chances.
So I looked up the leaders last year for deep passing on PFF, and I'm not gonna lie, the first one surprised me, and I wonder if it's on your list.
Probably not.
See, I'm not doing deep with gunslingers. I'm
Or
going,
this list, it's not going to be deep.
I'm going
You're
like
reckless. You
I'm
take
going
chances.
reckless.
And sometimes
My
it
word
works
is-
out, and sometimes it doesn't.
My word
I mean,
association with a gunslinger is reckless.
Yeah.
Not
Are
deep.
these good?
Number 5.
But define being reckless.
Yeah.
Reckless would be
Josh
like
Allen.
throwing it
Brett
really
Favre.
far, and it's an interception.
But is this
right?
list
an
like
arm
talent-wise? Like these are top 5, or these are top 5 gunslingers? Like, are they being good quarterbacks or good gunslingers?
Both.
Yes, it's Brett Favre thinking he could squeeze a ball in when he can't, and so he tries it anyway.
Ryan
Yeah, but it's not on
Fitzpatrick.
like a 5-yard out. Like it's
It's Ryan Fitzpatrick being like, that safety ain't making this play. I'm still throwing it.
Right.
Jameis needs to be on this list. He's not going to be. That's what I'm telling you right now.
To me, he's a gunslinger. He's reckless.
He led the league in like touchdowns and interceptions in the same
He had a
year.
30-30
or something.
year.
Yeah.
So we're clear on what this list
30-30,
is.
man.
Jameis Winston on a 7-9 football team threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. Tom Brady came in eliminated the interceptions, they immediately won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
That's what a gunslinger
Well,
is.
Gronk came to.
Yes.
Favre is the only one who's allowed to win a championship and be a gunslinger.
Oh, I don't know about
these
that.
are not.
way.
These
I
are not
don't know
championship
about
quarterbacks.
that.
Hold on. We just saw
These are not championship
We just
quarterbacks.
saw a dude throw a pass behind his back. You don't think
Not
that's
a gunslinger.
gunslinger behavior?
Mahomes is not a gunslinger.
It's kind of like the all bucket
He's too
list.
good.
He's
He's
too
too
good to
good.
be.
What
a
about
He's
Russell
got some
Wilson?
traits. Like he has moments where like that's what a gunslinger looks like.
You guys keep fixing good and bad. The gunslinger's a gunslinger. Some of them
Yeah.
are good, some of them are bad, but you just sling guns.
Right,
That's
like
what you
Baker
do.
Mayfield's a gunslinger.
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 To clear things
Yes.
up, Jameis did not lead the league in touchdowns. He led the league in passing yards and interceptions that year.
Thank you, Billy. It's important that we have accuracy during this gunslinger
He's right about that,
conversation.
though.
The gunslinger himself does not have to have accuracy, though.
No.
So where are we? OLI?
OLI, Jameis Winston.
You just
No, me and Jess were talking about it before. I just didn't write it down.
Ben Roethlisberger is a gunslinger.
No, he's too mobile.
Really?
Yeah, I need
Oh,
a
what?
gunslinger who's statuesque in the
mobile?
pocket.
What do you mean?
And just letting
He
it
runs
ride.
like a skyscraper.
No, he
I
was
know, but it's
surprisingly
different,
fleet
though.
of foot.
He would
was.
get out of tackles. That was like
All
his
the
whole
time.
thing. Like you couldn't tackle
Yeah.
the guy, but he was
He's
like
a
the king
gunslinger.
of the pump fake and then the long ball, semi-reckless at times.
Yeah.
But I don't
Number
know.
5, Philip
on and off
Rivers.
the field.
I thought a gunslinger other than Favre couldn't win a championship, but you're telling me Roethlisberger's a gunslinger. That's
Yeah.
what you're telling me.
Yes. Yes.
I give him half a gunslinger.
You put him on your list of gunslingers.
No, I didn't. I said Philip Rivers.
Oh.
That's number 5. Philip Rivers, another guy not winning a championship, but a gunslinger.
I don't like this championship kind of.
I agree.
No.
I
Dan said
agree.
it. I'm just
I'm
going with it.
of the belief that if you're a gunslinger, that can't win the ultimate trophy. It's part of being a gunslinger.
I don't think any of us have the same definition for gunslinger.
That's why I was trying to get the criteria.
Yeah, I'm with you.
right.
We need to. I think we need to slow down here.
So this is interesting. Early John Elway, gunslinger. Late John Elway handed the ball off to Terrell Davis. I mean,
Won a championship
Won
as soon
two.
as he stopped
Yes.
being. Or he
Won
was
two.
he was a retired gunslinger, and then he was allowed to win a
As
championship.
soon as he stopped slinging guns,
That's right.
That's when he started
That's
winning.
right. He doesn't burst through the saloon doors and shoot everybody. He just hands it to Terrell Davis, and he gently opens the saloon doors, and then Elway sits down and has a sarsaparilla.
Ben Roethlisberger's Peruvian. He was born in Lima,
No, Ohio.
Ohio.
Oh.
Okay. Never mind.
Number 4.
Number 4, controversial, Aaron Rodgers.
Oh wow! Won a Super Bowl.
Aaron Rodgers is a gunslinger.
One of the
guys.
best quarterbacks of all time.
Turn
Gunslinger.
the ball
Gunslinger
over.
doesn't mean bad, Chris.
You
Brett
can't-
Favre was a gunslinger.
You can't be a gunslinger and have 5 interceptions in a season.
It's a mentality, though. He's putting the ball where he shouldn't,
You're
and then
way
all of a
off on
sudden
this one.
the ball's there.
You know, sometimes you sling the gun and the gun just happens to be a dud. Like, look, man.
Misfire.
Yeah, so that's not. Look, the intention was to gunsling. It's not about the results. Stop playing the results, Dan Le Batard.
Video, please put in the corner Gardner Minshew's workout,
Yes, please.
sweaty
Forever.
and torso-y. Number 3,
Brett Favre,
Yeah. Ultimate. Yeah.
two better.
The gunslinger.
the
No,
gunslinger.
Two better than the OG.
Two better, though.
Does a gunslinger throw a gun? Because you shouldn't do
He
that.
slings a gun.
No,
Not
he-
a gun thrower.
He neither throws nor slings
But
the
it's
gun.
sling.
He just treats the gun and has such facility with the gun that it's as if he's operating a sling. He's got his total control over the
Attaboy,
shooting tendencies.
I know it's a sling.
Now, Billy,
Chris doesn't.
if throwing is what you're
David
looking
and
for,
Goliath, sling.
flamethrower, that's a different list.
Really?
Yeah, it's a different list.
Different list.
That's a
Totally
list,
different.
yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2, Matthew Stafford.
Won a Super Bowl.
Also won a Super Bowl.
Is he guns?
I don't know.
He's a gunslinger,
I
guys.
would say, you know
arm
what?
angle.
You know what
He
I would
actually
say?
is a
ball throw.
gunslinger because he had no business winning that Super Bowl. That pass in Tampa Bay late in the game should have been picked off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, he also had a no-look pass in the Super Bowl, which is a very gunslingy tendency. But this is what I would argue. I'd argue that Stafford, when he was in Detroit, gunslinger.
You're right.
Got to the Rams, won a championship, put down the guns.
Yeah.
We'll see this season.
Number 1.
Number 1, Dan Marino.
Never won it. I mean,
A lot of interceptions.
A lot of gunslinging, though.
You got to have too much confidence in your arm. Too much.
Exactly. That's a part of the criteria. Is like I'm going to fit this ball where nobody else can fit it.
I like that. Going back to Stafford, I like the idea. Dan has that Matthew Stafford showed up from Detroit. He's got all his guns, and McVay was like, "Whoa,
Put 'em
partner,
away.
you got to put them away." So then he starts to like unload them out on the table right there before he walks into camp.
Yeah.
And he walks in gunless, and that's how he became a Super Bowl.
But then he
champ.
finds like one more.
But it was
he
like
had
Butch
so many
Davis.
guns that there's one more in his pocket that
In
he
his
forgot
boot.
about.
It was in his boot.
It was like Butch Davis. He thought he got all of them. He knew he didn't get half of them. All of a sudden, Tampa Bay, wham! All of a sudden, Cooper Cup's open. Let me look at it that way.
Tony,
Yes.
CJ Stroud?
Too early. I mean,
Early, but gunslinger tendencies.
Yes,
they're
no
there.
doubt,
If you really look at him, very
You
tough.
squint.
Yeah.
No, it's not a squint situation. It's like really locking
Through a
in on him.
microscope.
correct.
It's like, oh wow, he fit that ball where?
Same with Caleb.
He had 1,200 passing yards over 20 or more yards last year. So
Who are the
just
least
behind Brock
gunslingers?
Purdy.
The
Well,
least
Aaron Rodgers
gunslingers.
is
Joe
on his
Montana.
list. He doesn't throw any interceptions, but I am willing to co-sign what Tony is saying here on this front. This is what happened with Stafford. I wish NFL Video would release this video the way they haven't released the Travis Kelce pushing over a doddering Andy Reid in the Super Bowl. He gets from Detroit to Los Angeles. He gets into McVay's office, and he puts 12 guns on the table. And he's like, here, you got all my gunslinger. I'm not going to do this anymore. And then he reaches down and he realizes he's still got one in the ankle strap.
A revolver.
He didn't realize that he's got a small gun in the ankle strap, and that was the no-look pass in the Super Bowl. Not even McVay wants that. McVay's not calling a no-look pass in the Super Bowl to Cup. They got one receiver. All 7 guys are covering him, and he's like, no, I'm going to no-look it here. You know why? Because I've got something in the ankle strap, and I forgot about it. I've lived with it so long in my life that I forgot that this was even weighting down my ankle.
Who's the anti-gunslinger?
Alex Smith.
Is it-
Again, Aaron Rodgers.
I think is Tua in that
Yeah,
conversation?
he had a lot of interceptions.
He does
last
make
year.
some reckless throws, but he's
But
super
I
accurate.
don't-
Can
does
you
it have
ask
to be the
Dan? Do they want you to
criteria? I don't
ask?
understand the interceptions thing. It's
Again, I think you guys are playing the results too much. When you start talking about interceptions at Super Bowls, who wants to talk about that? It's all about the
it's a
tendencies,
style of play,
the
yeah.
style of play. But if you want the anti-gunslinger, Trent Dilfer.
Aaron Rodgers had a 4-year period where he threw 15 interceptions.
You cannot be a gunslinger unless there are interceptions. Like there is no such thing as a gunslinger in the pros without interceptions.
He threw interceptions. It's not like he threw 0.
But
he threw some.
even if he threw 0, what if he was just a really, really, really lucky gunslinger?
The best of the gunslingers.
Yeah, like
you're just confusing
Best of the
things.
West.
Stop.
Would Aaron Rodgers call himself a gunslinger?
I saw that the one fact that Twitter did correct over the last months of misinformation is that it is not true that Patrick Mahomes has had 53 interceptions called back by penalty. The second leader in the NFL is Josh Allen with 7. People were throwing that around as if it was an accurate stat. It is not an accurate stat.
Seems like a lot.
It does seem like a lot. But
Like 54, 52. It wasn't precisely accurate. It was around there, though, ballpark.
The thing that you guys are neglecting that is simply wrong is you cannot be a gunslinger unless you throw interceptions. It's not. It's like having.
It's part of the job.
It's like
You're
you're
right,
telling me somebody's a gunslinger and they don't have a gun. Like the interceptions are as important as the gun in the gunslinging.
The point is you're taking chances when you probably shouldn't take chances, and occasionally it's not going to work out.
Well,
Dan's
Mahomes
right.
is on the
Yeah,
top of that list. He
right.
throws balls behind his back. He's falling down. He throws crazy
and a
balls.
Kadarius Tony.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes you don't have guns, but you just use your fingers. You're like, I'm still a gunslinger. I just
Sometimes you can sling the
guns.
gun but not be a gunslinger. Yeah.
There was a guy who was a
Yeah.
gunslinger and then transitioned to not being a gunslinger.
Elway.
Deshaun Watson, too.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Was a gunslinger in Houston, throwing the ball all over the place.
Now
all
he's
of a
just
sudden,
bad. Now he's just bad.
Now he sucks.
Yeah.
This video in the corner of my screen is hypnotizing. It is somehow, and I can't believe the sentence I'm about to utter, it is somehow sexier than Will Levis's mayonnaise commercial.
Oh, wow. Debatable.
If you squint on him, too.
He's too hairy for me.
Gardner Minshew is or
Yeah.
Levis? I mean,
No
he's
such
very.
Levis, no hair. I mean.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Whoa, where'd that come from?
What?
Wait, so
I don't
wait,
know.
so
Italian roots.
wait.
What just happened?
Wait. Wait. This much hair, I think, sweaty. I would say this is generally unattractive. but I am not the barometer for these things.
Why
and
not?
Thank God.
You guys love to tell me like what men are hot, and then when
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I actually think George Clooney's better looking than Brad Pitt, and you're like, no, oh my God, you're wrong.
Thank you.
I was with you on that one, Jessica, but are you now arguing that this sweaty, hairy Gardner Minshew, you're saying more hair. You're saying more, you want more sweaty hair
He
than
doesn't have
this?
that much chest hair at all. Like, I can see his skin through his chest hair. That's not a lot of chest hair.
Well, I am sort of, there's the optical
He has
illusion.
no arm hair.
We need a little back
I'll
hair
say
there,
it.
too.
This is a sexy amount of chest hair.
No, look,
No,
not this
not
shot.
enough.
No, there's another one. It
No,
said
it's
it's
a good
sweaty.
amount.
It gets
Yeah.
stuck together when it's sweaty, and it seems like there's not as much as there's there.
Him
me
with
see
the
that.
rock on, too. I love that.
Let me see that lower back hair. Let me
That's
see,
where
get
that's
this other
the tell,
angle.
the lower back,
This is gross.
because it lets you know what the butt looks like.
Oh, come on. Like, come
Really?
on.
He's right about
Oh, I'm
Come
sorry.
on.
Yeah, we've
Come
gone
on,
too
what-
far.
come
We're all
on.
Let me see your lower back.
Come on.
Let me see
I
your
mean,
lower back.
Grow
tells
up,
a story,
people.
Jay.
Really?
Yeah,
It tells us, okay,
Yeah,
literal.
like a road
Dude, let me see your lower back.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes, asshole.
No, Minshew's out,
The back's hairy. Yeah, that's
out,
asshole's hairy.
out,
Billy or Minshew's ass?
out, both of you.
You guys took that way too far.
Minor
got a
penalty, 2
penalty,
minutes,
5
asshole.
minutes.
Major asshole.
Both of them. Major, minor ass.
Tony, great list.
It's like a reverse treasure trail.
Chris Cody, Stugotz is having some trouble keeping up with the day's news because he was just trying to inform me of Jeff Darlington reporting that Flores had texted Tua a bunch that he sucked and he thought it was breaking news. And I looked at him and I said, no, that's from yesterday. That was Darlington who was on yesterday. The news, the amount of attention this has gotten has surprised me. We were sitting in the same place. I know it's a slow time. People want their football, and I know it's unusual for an active player to publicly take out an active coach of any sort. But I've still been surprised that it's been 3 days in the national news stream, this story.
It's the weird story where I'm seeing a lot of people just super interested in it, and then the farther, like the Joe Roses of the world, just being like, "Why are we talking about this still?" So it's like a weird juxtaposition.
But it's also, and I mean, I don't know, we'll get to Juju here in a second. I don't know how it is that you feel about this, but there's some lightning rod stuff here. The Brian Flores name is a regional name. He had his big job in Miami. The reason it's known nationally is, wait a minute, a head coach sued the NFL about what? And so now you've got a lot of people taking sides on, oh, look at this tearing down of the black man who's a head coach. Look at how he hangs on to the fringes of the league, kept alive by Mike Tomlin, blackest coach in the league, blackest staff in the league, I should say, because he's got a bunch of power in Pittsburgh and a real stability in Pittsburgh. But there are people taking sides on this in a way that I find kind of unusual, that it would sustain for 3 days like this.
Dan, in a strange way, it's not apples to apples, but it reminds me a lot of what happened in the NBA with Adrian Griffin, who was also replaced by another black head coach in Doc Rivers. But a lot of people look at Brian Flores' record and comparing it with the Dolphins' record has been since he left, and it's like, it's kind of comparable. They really haven't achieved anything that Brian Flores did not achieve, and so they use that as kind of proof that, well, he got the raw deal here. And at what Tua's telling us is kind of like what we heard about Adrian Griffin. Is like, yeah, I know what the results were, but the way this sausage was made was not palatable and did not kind of indicate that this is going to go to a more positive place moving forward.
Brian Flores did not deserve to be fired based on what he was given and the results he produced off of what he was given.
Right.
And so to see him hanging on to the fringes of the league and needing the support of Vikings teammates because he's gotten a job outside of Pittsburgh, outside of the comfort of Tomlin's security, it is him fighting to stay in the league by handling yesterday the way he handled it.
But you see what I'm saying in that Brian Flores, if you just look at, like I said, what he was, like you said, what he was given, what he achieved, man, that seems to be a pretty decent coaching job that he did. But when you hear Tua talk about how this guy coached me, you begin to realize, oh, results be damned. This guy was kind of debilitating towards what we're trying to build here around this particular player. And that's the part that sometimes gets lost in some of this stuff is, yeah, sometimes it's not a results business. Sometimes it is based off your process.
Juju, can you explain to me whether or not people are thinking that we're talking about this stuff too much? Because we are 3 days in on it right now, and it is a slower time. So I imagine the complaints would be coming in right about now.
Cafecito Crew Gaming says, Brian Flores is that a-hole chef from The Bear who even said you're welcome after he got confronted about abuse. So no, they're wide awake. They're the fans of the show, the listeners of the show. They are locked into this. I'm locked into this because this is a major story. I don't think anyone has grown tired other than the haters who already just be hating on life.
And by the way, to back up what Juju's saying, I don't even know if they're haters because I think most people are finding and discovering this. My barber talked about it yesterday. And he never talks about anything we ever do on this show. But he was like, yeah, I saw your boy Le Batard with Tua. And I'm like, oh, damn, it cut through that
Well,
deep.
you know what it reminds me of, actually? When one of these issues in sports can go and make its way into parenting, into teaching, it reminded me, honestly, of when we had the Dolphins story of Bullygate, and everybody was like, what do you mean an offensive lineman bullied another offensive lineman? They're both 300-pound people. A lot of people are using this as a jumping off point on what's the better way to treat people if you're trying to teach them? Fear, respect, or love? Like, people are talking about what's the proper way to reach someone, and when you've seen the results change so much with Tua's assigning it to somebody believing in him, and many people can now argue, well, it's Tyreek Hill, it's system. It's not that people believe in him, it's that they've done a bunch of different things to build around him, and part of it is the belief.
Did you guys think when you guys sat down doing this?
Awkwardly sat down right next to him. Yeah. Go on.
Did you think, oh, this is going to be really big locally, but it won't have waves outside of?
Me and Stugotz were looking at each other throughout that interview like, holy crap, this is going to be good.
Really?
I wasn't like that. I just said that last answer, when I left, I said that last answer is going to make some noise, but I didn't think it would make the noise that it has made. I'm watching on my televisions here. We're 3 days in, and we held that 4 or 5 days. It's on every show. Yeah. Every show is talking about this, and I did not have it being all of that, at least in part because it was pretty common knowledge in that locker room. Juju, what else are people saying we got right and got wrong today?
Warden Gabi from YouTube says, Samson on his own is great, but Samson in his appearances on the show is just legendary stuff. David Samson be coming on and he be siding with the management, of course, but he does speak for a large piece of the audience out there. A lot of people were agreeing with him and his takes about how Flores is, I guess, lucky to have a job and just thank his lucky stars, ... A lot of people agreed with that sentiment.
For real?
Yes, this is America.
Well, and you generally can't sue your employer, then keep being employed. That's not something that happens very often.
He's not. The NFL is not his employer. I mean, the NFL is the structure with which, his employment is occurring, but he does not work for the NFL. He works for the Minnesota Vikings.
Understood, but he needed the lifeline of Mike Tomlin. Like, the thing that can happen with these circumstances is your talent doesn't reach up to the place where offending the customer is something, or the employer is something that gets Colin Kaepernick banned from the league for something that isn't any kind of crime, because nobody's willing to take a chance on somebody anymore. Like, Mike Tomlin really did Brian Flores a favor there.
No, a huge favor. Right? He saved his career, you could say. He made him. He took the radioactiveness off of him.
Juju, what else are people saying today outside of this subject, or is it all this subject related?
No, absolutely not. Sean G, Alan, Jeanette, who else is this? Hunter Terrestrial, and Never Daunted Radio Network says they absolutely love the rejoins. Oh, we had the rejoin come back today. People are loving it. The chat lit up when the rejoin came back. I know it seems small to y'all, but to us, that thing sound good, man.
There's going to be more of that. That's a Chris Cody idea there. He executed that today. He's bringing those back to tickle us, really. He's trying very hard to tickle us and bring us back to our familiar environments. Amin, you were saying?
No, I was just saying that the radioactivity was removed.
Oh, my fault. I saw eye contact from you that suggested you wanted to speak. I didn't think that you hadn't finished your previous thought.
No.
It seemed like you wanted to get in there.
Yeah.
Also, before we move on, I want to give our brother Chris Cody a round of applause, bro. Like, people don't understand. Chris went from coming to work every day and just being able to be a jokester and having a great time. Now, Chris Cody got to come to work and be in charge, have stuff to worry about. He got people in his ear. He see the video messing up, but Dan talking. You know how stressful that is? Like, brother, I commend you, brother. Like, no matter what people say or what, I don't give a damn. I'm riding for you. I got your back, bro. Good job, man.
I appreciate it, dude.
Play with them drawstrings.
Always positive, Juju. You can't put a positive on him playing with the drawstrings in the middle of the couch during the Tua interview, not knowing what to do with his hands. You can't. And you had people coming out of the shadows to pull his shirt away from his belly.
Come on, take the picture down. Take the picture down now. Get it out of here. Also, shouts out to Keep It Fair, Snugs86 from Instagram, a.k.a. Victor Murillo, says, thank you guys for less juju this week.
Oh, no.
Salute.
Screw that guy.
Boo.
Salute.
Not you.
The people, everybody's opinion matters.
No,
You dig?
that
Salute.
opinion does not matter. In fact.
Yep. We've got a penalty, 5 minutes. Major asshole.
For Snugs.